If you've ever fully been bitten by the golf bug, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, folks. And welcome back to another episode of Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook. We're back today for Tuesday. It's going to be Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. Got some more news, got some more earnings as earnings season rolls on with more bank earnings. We got JP Morgan here today. We've got the market that's actually trading higher here today. So after yesterday's nice day, we got a little bit of follow through here today. We'll see what that means for the SPY and perhaps what the next move is amongst all of that. We've got some news to cover. We've got stocks to trade, and there's fun to be had. Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook, the Tuesday edition for April 14th, 2026 begins right now. Good morning and welcome back, folks. It's great to see a whole bunch of returning faces. I hope that you had a wonderful rest of your Monday and Monday evening. It is Tuesday now, and it is time to keep going through the week here. Great to see a whole bunch of returning faces. Richard Judge is first here today. Good morning, Judge. Good to see you. Big Hurt, Brent. Locked in, ready to go. What's going on, Brent? Good morning. Derek, good morning. Welcome back. Rooster, good morning. Welcome back. Aspie's swing from 455 to 505 worked great. Still holding a core position for a run back to the next resistance at 839. Okay. Good stuff there, Rooster. ASPI, I think Empyrean, right? We're getting, I like ASPI long, but haven't been able to get a good price. Maybe you can now. We'll take a look at ASPI. Let me actually add that here to the list. I see ASPI is up like 13 cents here today. We'll go ahead and take a look at that. Really good stuff here. You guys are starting early here today. I love it. Empyrean, good morning. It's great to see you again. We will absolutely take a look at ASPI there. Big Dave, good morning. Welcome back. Robert, good morning. Welcome back. Billy, the human chat scanner. Welcome back. Tesla on an upgrade scan. I would imagine SanDisk on that scan too. Is that got a 1200 rating from Evercore? That's just continues to outperform. It's really unbelievable. Solitary Soldier, good morning. Welcome back. Zach McCracken, good morning. Welcome back. UAVS, very good news on the sleeper. I did see that UAVS was trading up. We'll actually take a look at that during the mover section, I'm sure, Zach. So we'll see how it settles. I did notice on UAVS, it did trade back into a fair value gap area and started bouncing. I don't take trades in the pre-market, so I'm not in it myself, but I did see that after that impulse move, we're already getting one bounce. We'll see how strong that bounce is. Rajesh, good morning. Welcome back. Good to see you again. Crispy Biscuit, excuse me. Good morning. Welcome back. Francis, good morning. Welcome back. Kelly, it's great to see you. Good morning. Peter, good morning. VIX is indeed lower here. VIX 18 prints this morning, and actually looks like we might break 18 to the downside. We'll have a better idea on that when we take a look at the SPY chart here in a little bit. Astro Kev, good morning. Producer, good morning. Producer, I know you're bit by the golf bug too. It's not just me, that's for sure. Wes, how about you? Yeah, you're in the South. You golf year round, don't you? Nonetheless, good morning. Welcome back. It's great to see you. EKS, good morning. Welcome back. What do you have on the docket here today, EKS? It's great to see you this morning. Buffalo by Bicycle. Hey. Good morning, Buffalo by Bicycle. Great to have you back. Marionette, good morning. Good evening for you. Well, good to have you back. Welcome. Yes, that girl. Good morning. Bernhard. Good morning. Sean. Good morning. Sean says, golf bug got me bad. Sean, we're going to make it. That's all I can say. We're going to make it through this year. I literally yesterday was supposed to be the only sunny day in Chicago. Like the rest of the days here are going to have some type of rain. And I'm, busy with the return to the office and all this stuff. And I'm literally looking outside like, can I please just get out there? Can I please just get out there? It's so bad. It's so bad, but it's good. It's bad, but it's good. Producer, I guess I had internet trouble there. Just dropped there. Nonetheless, thank you for looking out there. It's got me bad, but that just means that golf season and summer are here. We'll see how this goes. All right, looks like we lost the chat there on screen. Sorry about that. Okay, guess my internet's having trouble. It is storms here in Chicago. I don't know if that's what's going on. Sorry, producer. I don't know what's going on. Let me know if you have any tips for me here. I'm going to keep rolling, though. Just passing through. Good morning. Welcome back. Robot to Trade. Good morning. Welcome back. Darkside Hemi. Good morning. Welcome back. G-Cord. Good morning. It's great to see you. Debt AI. Good morning. Welcome back. It's good to see you again as well. Graph. Good morning. Reaching Financial Freedom. Good morning. E-Key. I love it. Good morning. Brian, good morning. Good to see you again, Brian. Hope all is well. Jane, it's good to see you as always. Welcome back. Maverick, likewise. Hopefully you're doing well. Durkus, good morning. Greenhorn, good morning. The American Nightmare, good morning. Awaiting orders. You guys are funny. I'd be curious to know what orders you guys are giving out here today. Reggie, good to see you again. Welcome back. Brian, good morning. GP Super, good morning. Linda, good morning. JD, good morning. And Stock Trader for Life, good morning. All right, folks, let's see if we can get through this without an internet snafu. Let's go ahead and get started with our stock market today. All right, futures in the green here ahead of Tuesday's open. S&P futures up 0.27%. The Dow futures up 0.04%, basically unchanged. They're actually a little bit lower in the pre-market here, but have since moved higher and into the green. NASDAQ leads the way higher here, 0.54%. All right, let's take a look at some cues from last session, shall we? Information technology, financial, and consumer discretionary equities logged the largest gains on Monday as S&P 500 sectors finished positively. Well, utilities and consumer staples went against the broader market trend to close lower. U.S. stocks rose on Tuesday following Monday's rally. Futures of the major benchmark indices were trading higher. Investors await the March Producers Price Index data, which is scheduled to be released before the opening bell here today. On Monday, Vice President J.D. Vance hinted at a potential path forward in the stalled Iran talks, saying that a diplomatic breakthrough with Iran remains within reach, but only if Tehran agrees to Washington's core nuclear demands. That should come as no surprise to anyone. If America's red lines are met, then this can be, quote, a very, very good deal for both countries, end quote. That was from Vance, adding that the next move rests with Iran. Meanwhile, the 10-year Treasury bond yielded 4.28%, and the 2-year bond was at 3.76%. The CME Group's Fed Watch Tool projections show the markets are pricing in a 99.5% likelihood that the Federal Reserve leaves the current interest rates unchanged in its April meeting. Now, we've got several stocks in focus here for you today, and the first one is going to be Sana Biotechnology. The ticker is SANA, Sana, and it surged 20.25% in pre-market on Tuesday after the company announced a strategic collaboration with Mayo Clinic to advance the development of SC451. Also, the company sold 7.5 million shares at $3.33 per share for $25 million to Mayo Clinic. The next stock on our list is going to be FB Financial, and the ticker on this one is FBK. It declined by 3.47% after reporting mixed results for the first quarter. Company posted quarterly earnings of $112 per share, which beat the analyst consensus estimate of $111 per share. The next stock on our list is an oldie but goodie, I guess you could say. This is ChargePoint Holdings. The ticker on this one is CHPT. It jumped 6.63% as President and CEO Richard Wilmer purchased 46,847 shares of the company's stock. And that was a transaction valued at $249,694. So just about $250,000 of stock purchased on the open market. The next stock on our list is going to be an oil name, and this one is Chevron. The ticker on this is CVX. It fell 0.53% despite signing an agreement with Venezuela's state-owned oil company PDVSA, the country's Ministry of Hydrocarbons, to increase crude oil production in the country. The last stock on our list here is going to be FedEx, good old FedEx, ticker FDX. It was down 0.31% after it said that John Dietrich will step down as executive vice president and chief financial officer on June 1st upon successful completion of the spinoff of FedEx Freight into a new publicly traded company. All right, folks, let's take a look at the SPY chart here. We'll see exactly where we're at and what yesterday's session left us with. So remember, we have been talking about possibly finding resistance and rolling over at the 200 last week before we took our break. Obviously, we've since gapped through that. The good news here is that we've actually taken out some of these moving averages, and it sure looks by the last 4 sessions here that we're going to keep trying to push some of these highs. Now, where does this stop? I'm glad you asked. That's going to be the $64,000 question here. We've been dealing with the lower boundary of this trend line that was originally identified from the 4-hour chart here on the SPY. We basically just connected some of the lows. This trend line definitely came into play. We used it as support. We broke it. It acted as resistance. When we broke that, we back tested it, went through it again. We're kind of figuring out exactly which direction we're going to go here, but it revolved around the bottom side of that trend line. That's important because now we're actually trading up to the top end of that trend, and this was a broadening descending wedge. Now, for today's session, I have this resistance at about 691. Depending on where you put your cursor and how you draw your lines, you might have 690.88, 691 and a quarter, some number therein. Basically 691. I would also kind of expand that a little bit. 691 to 692 is our probable resistance area, and we are not far from that. Looks like our high print here in the pre-market on SPY was 688.55. That was an impulse move on volume. We pulled back from that impulse move, and we've started to kind of curl back up towards the top. So if we look at this on a smaller time frame, you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. We had a nice impulse move. We pulled back. We'll see if we're able to take that out. For me, 690, 691, that's going to be your area of resistance here today. Now, going back to the daily chart, what would be interesting is if we're able to break this, and I haven't said this in a while, that actually puts new all-time highs on deck here. And we had talked before when it looked like we were going to try and set some of those. We had talked about 700 on the SPY being that really important number. On happy hour yesterday, we took a look at some of the option stats that tell us where we're going here. And it does look like there are some traders positioned at that 700, but I would be cautious. If we do trade up here and we peak above 700, the likely next step for me, I think that we would probably pull back. How deep would we pull back? We'll have to wait and see. If we move up on a news catalyst, maybe that doesn't happen, or maybe it takes longer to happen, or maybe there's more room to the upside. But the next thing coming up here, 690 to 691, that's going to be the trend line that should act as resistance. And if somehow we're able to get through that with gusto here today, that puts the round 700 number in play. We'll see if we can recapture that either this week or before the week ends here. Now, let's take a look at some insights from analysts here. Professor Jeremy Siegel maintains a cautious near-term outlook for the U.S. stock market and economy due to the complicating factors of rising oil prices and a renewed pickup in money growth. He warns that recent positive CPI data is backward-looking and does not account for the ongoing energy shock that is currently moving through the system. Consequently, Siegel predicts that higher fuel and fertilizer costs will inflate goods prices in the coming months. Because consumer demand remains firm, there is a risk that, quote, the next move in rates could be up rather than down, end quote. Now, I am pretty certain that this is the first time Siegel has talked about a potential rate hike. I'm not there yet personally, but as everyone is saying here, depending on the inflation story and how long the conflict and the oil disruption and energy markets last, that's really going to determine that in the long run here. Now, regarding equities, Siegel expects that, quote, unless we get a meaningful de-escalation that takes oil decisively lower, end quote, the market will remain mostly range bound in the near term. So this also then, going back to the SPY chart that we just took a look at, this also then sets up the possibility of us being near the top of a range. If indeed we are going to stay in a range, maybe that 690, 691 area is the top. Maybe we do actually try to go to 700. But if we're range bound, we're near the top end of that range, and perhaps the next move on the broader market could be down. Siegel currently views the economy as an awkward mix, anticipating a sell-off stemming from failed geopolitical talks, followed by a choppy sideways market. However, he maintains his long-run optimism on equities, noting that a favorable resolution on the energy front could still push stocks to new highs. And I think that's probably the thing that we're waiting for here, right? If we do get some good news, if the conflict actually ends, or if it looks like we're moving in the right direction for more than just a couple of minutes, frankly, or just a couple of comments back and forth, maybe we can actually have the gusto to push above 700, carve out some new highs. If we actually push above 700 and then back test 700 and trade sideways, maybe then we're actually set up for another leg higher. But we'll see how that all shakes out here. We got time for that. As far as economic data here today, the PPI for March will be released at 8:30. We're expecting that here in 14 minutes. We'll bring that to you as soon as it comes. And then we also have Fed Governor Michael Barr scheduled to speak at 5:50 later this evening. Okay, let's take a look at our next story here. There we go. Trump's Hormuz blockade, is it a buying opportunity or is it the final straw? So in addition to us trading up to this resistance area, are we kind of anticipating that we are going to pull back here? If we do pull back, does that represent a buying opportunity? Are we in big trouble here? Let's dive in and take a look and see what Wall Street thinks. Wall Street is sharply divided on the potential economic and market fallout as President Donald Trump announces a U.S. Navy blockade of the Strait of Hormuz following failed nuclear talks with Iran. Despite escalating tensions and the threat of disrupted global oil supplies, some market veterans remain steadfastly bullish. Ed Yardeni, president of Yardeni Research, noted that Wall Street's reaction to the unprecedented naval blockade has so far been a, quote, total shrug, end quote. Pointing to a historically remarkable resilient U.S. economy, Yardeni argues that past international conflicts have often proven lucrative for investors who stay the course. Quote, geopolitical crises tend to be buying opportunities, end quote. Yardeni told that to CNBC, suggesting the current market dip is just another chance to buy. Now, I hate to spoil the party here, but it actually looks like, at least over the past couple of sessions, that dip has been bought. We are already on to what's next. Do we set new highs? Does it keep going? What is next? I think that's what everyone is looking for here. Maybe not everyone, but some folks. Speaking of which, conversely, other experts warn that markets might be dangerously complacent. Economist, David Rosenberg observed that investors seem to be giving the Trump administration the benefit of the doubt, playing a geopolitical chess game 2 pieces ahead. However, Rosenberg cautioned that the real danger lies in a direct military confrontation. If Iranian forces were to retaliate against the blockade by attacking the U.S. Navy, Rosenberg warned that such an escalation, quote, would probably be the final straw, end quote, ending the current market stability and triggering a severe shock. We'll see if we end up getting that. Sudden blockade directive follows the collapse of a marathon 20-hour negotiations in Islamabad. Vice President J.D. Vance and a U.S. delegation departed without securing commitments from Tehran to halt its nuclear ambitions. In response, Trump ordered the U.S. Navy to intercept vessels entering or exiting the vital oil transit route. While experts across the aisle agree that Americans will likely, quote, feel it at the pump, end quote, due to rising core inflation and spiking oil prices, the ultimate question is whether Wall Street's calm will hold or buckle under the pressure of a direct naval clash. So we'll see which one we get. I know we've got people here on both sides of the whole thing. I agree yesterday. I know you guys were actually counting down the time until the blockade started. And the market, in terms of a shrug there, it was a shrug. That market kept trading higher yesterday. Now we'll see if we get a little bit of a pullback here today. Maybe the PPI will induce that. We shall see what's next here today. Okay, next news story has to actually do with American Airlines. I know we've talked about some of the travel stocks quite frequently. Airline businesses are tough, but maybe things are going to change there. Maybe. American Airlines, ticker AAL, is trading 4.99% higher during the pre-market trading session on Tuesday amid reports that United Airlines, ticker UAL, CEO Scott Kirby has suggested a potential merger with the company. In fact, the actual word used was they floated this. They floated a potential merger of United and American. United Airlines is trading 1.45% higher in the pre-market session. Kirby presented the merger proposal to President Trump in a late February meeting. This was reported by Reuters on Monday. Originally intended to discuss the future of Dulles Airport, the meeting took place just 3 days before the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran began. Kirby reportedly argued that a United airline would be a more formidable competitor in international markets, as he pointed out that the Trump administration has been focusing on U.S. trade deficits globally. It's unclear if United has formally approached American or begun any process. United Airlines, American Airlines, and the White House did not immediately respond to Benzinga's request for comments. As always, when we get an update on that, I will bring it to you here. This news comes in the wake of Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy signaling approval for possible mergers between U.S. airlines amid rising jet fuel costs. In an interview with CNBC, Duffy mentioned that Trump, quote, loves to see big deals happen, end quote, and that there was, quote, room for some mergers in the aviation industry in the U.S., end quote. After the collapse of JetBlue Airways, the ticker on that one was JBLU, and the proposed acquisition of Spirit Airlines, whose ticker is now FLYYQ and is on the OTC, on antitrust grounds in 2024, speculation has grown that JetBlue itself could become a consolidation target as it navigates a multi-year turnaround. Analysts, however, expect the proposed UAL-AAL merger to encounter significant regulatory obstacles. I would absolutely imagine that's the case. Antitrust lawyer Seth Bloom told Reuters that the deal is unlikely to pass regulators even under a more lenient administration, as it could increase airlines' pricing power and hurt consumers. And indeed, I'm skeptical on this one. CJ, I'm with you. CJ says no way they allow that merger. They would not even allow Spirit to buy Frontier. Now, I think that one is a little bit different, to be quite honest with you. But nonetheless, details aside, I'm with you on this one. I don't see any way they allow this to go through. Actually, for the purposes of trading, I kind of think that this is just kind of a rumor that's floating out there. I don't know how serious either of these parties are. That's just my read on it. I could be completely wrong, but I'm with you, CJ. Not only do I don't think they allow this, I don't even think we're in any type of nearly advanced talk or anything like that. I think we're a ways off that. All right. About 6 more minutes, we'll get to our guest here on our T3 Tuesday. The next story here, this is about the SaaS apocalypse that we've all been looking at. I know a lot of you folks have been trading some of these stocks, which is awesome. I know there's been a lot of winners on some of these stocks as well. Is the SaaS apocalypse overblown? NVIDIA may be your flight back to safety, says an expert, as sovereign AI could defy a software route. Thought this was somewhat interesting here. Despite growing fears of an AI bubble and geopolitical and global geopolitical unrest, NVIDIA, ticker NVDA's tangible revenue and absolute market dominance make the tech giant a critical haven for investors, despite the ongoing fears of a software stock rout. And that is according to Constellation Research CEO Ray Wang. As analysts debate potential market downturns, Wang insists that the demand driving NVIDIA is physical and undeniable. Quote, all these SaaS apocalypse, AI apocalypse scenarios are basically being relooked at, end quote. Wang told this to Schwab Network, pointing out that NVIDIA's growth is rooted in concrete infrastructure development from new data centers to energy plants. With year-over-year increases hovering near 80%, Wang highlighted that NVIDIA is not running on empty promises. Quote, these aren't made-up numbers. They're real revenues, end quote. He cited projections of $1 trillion in sales from its Blackwell and Vera Rubin architectures for 2027. Amidst global instability, Wang predicts a market reset where investors will view tech as a flight back to safety, noting it remains the primary unregulated growth driver in the market today. Further insulating NVIDIA from a software rout is the impending boom of sovereign AI, which Wang stressed represents a massive untapped market. Quote, every country now wants to have their own AI so they can get the skills that companies in their country are protected. It came from CEO Wang. As nations scramble to safeguard their cultures and data, NVIDIA's unique positioning as a one-stop shop controlling 80% of the AI data center market and everything from compute data pathways to token access cements its role as the foundational architect of global AI infrastructure. However, the ongoing AI boom faces strict physical constraints tied to geopolitical tensions. Wang warned that traders are currently betting on a short-term disruption regarding the Iran conflict. A prolonged situation threatens severe supply chain bottlenecks. And indeed, that's what we see here, that's what we see here from everyone, even varying the different opinions. Quote, if the Iran war continues for 3 months, we're going to run out of sulfuric acid, end quote. Wang cautioned that, highlighting the critical chemical needed to etch chips. With components struggling to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, a drawn-out conflict could temporarily stall production, even as long-term global demand remains completely intact. So, SaaS apocalypse, I think that was totally overblown. I think there are going to be some really good opportunities. And again, this whole move down in the market, right? The whole wanting the move down in the market is so that we can add some of these super quality companies at lower prices. And make some money off of that. Glad you like it, Zach. I'm talking just to you and everyone else, it seems. All right, folks, it is Tuesday. We've got our guest here. It's a T3 Tuesday. I beg your pardon. Let's go ahead and bring on our guest. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show, Charlie Moon. Let's go ahead and bring him on. Charlie, good morning. How you doing, my man?
Doing great, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm ready for another day here, and I am absolutely ready for the summer weather. I'm bitten by the golf bug, so we got money to make and we got golf to play. Let me just get started here by paying the bills. Join Charlie Moon this Tuesday at 4:30 Eastern for a live look at the 4-step AI strategy he uses to find high probability trade setups across the entire market in seconds. Charlie, let me just start right there. Can you tell us at all about the AI strategy that you use?
Yeah, so the system actually looks for, high technical setups. It's back tested and will, offer up trade ideas based on technical structure, what it feels would be best in this market environment. Um, it pinpointed the energy rally early on. It actually was highlighting now MNDY, Zscaler, and a few others on Friday as major dip buys. Um, and obviously the SaaS names have started to rally back strong, and this is kind of where it points out that historical opportunities plus the relative market environment kind of leads to this combination of high probability opportunities. It takes data, the historical data in more recent markets. So it's only over the last 3 years, is not from every time that the technicals have triggered out. And basically, I use this to kind of view the opportunities in relation to the charts, seeing if the math makes sense, which is always important. And if they do, then the only things left is to pull the trigger. So it's really good. It really takes the kind of R&D out of it. We don't have to spend hours to look for
Yep.
stocks. 10, 20, even 30 plus names can be presented on a daily basis. They'll be set up in different categories, and it really just makes the research plus trading aspect a lot easier for the everyday trader.
Now, do you just then trade off of the chart, like whatever the chart tells you to do? If it's on your scan and you look at the chart and the chart looks good to you, do you just trade off that? Do you incorporate news at all? How do you pick the stops? How do you pick the targets?
Yeah, so that's a great question. 100% that there's got to be some sort of correlative behavior. We don't want to be
Mhm.
buying right into resistance,
Sure.
only for the stock to pivot against us. Every single technical setup is structured. It comes with a detailed strategy that gives it the high probability opportunity. Closing rules could vary, but if they're just straight calls or put buys, usually we'll be looking for 40, 50% targets with defined risk. If they're spread plays, there'll be a multitude of exit orders. It could be from month expirations on the diagonals. It could be at 50% credit on short put spreads. It could be really simply something based on a technical indicator, such as the RSI peaking above 40. It means that the signal that's set up doesn't want you to be holding too long. A lot of these names that we're looking for, kind of these reversal buys, are usually stocks that have been trending down. So
Yep.
there's got to be this little temperament of buying within a strong downtrend and recognizing a reversal, and that's really what I want to teach. I want to teach people how to kind of read not only charting and opportunity, and where there could be structured reversals or where there could be really good buys, but also the actual rules behind the AI system that allows it to have the high probability winners.
Okay, that sounds absolutely awesome. Folks, join Charlie Moon this Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern for a live look at that four-step AI strategy he uses to find high probability trade setups across the entire market in seconds. Okay, Charlie, first of all, thanks for explaining that. Let's get to the fun part here. What are you looking at here today? What is set up for you here today?
Well, I'm still looking for follow through momentum in some of the AI growth stocks. We've seen an explosive move in names like CRDO, which I believe is up like 15%
Yeah.
in pre market trading right now.
Yep.
NBIS is another one that has follow through, ALAB and CRWV. There's a lot of symmetry when these stocks start getting really, really bullish. It's usually the market in a pretty good place, and looking to put risk on. Ever since last Friday, we've jumped above the 50 SMA and the Qs in the SPY. We're sitting here in the SPY, completely wiped out all of our losses once this Iran conflict has started. And in fact, we're only a stone throws away from all time highs. So, looking at a lot of these AI growth stocks, the SaaS apocalypse names, we saw Oracle come to life and absolutely lead the way. They still have a little
Yep.
bit more juice and upside to go. So, I'm just looking for a balance in the market, and the balance is really when we see broadly risk on trading within tech. We've seen a lot of segmented rallies, right?
Yep.
Nvidia being a primary leader, AMD, AVGO that's been recently moving on the Google News. But it's really good to see the Mag 7 names come into life. Microsoft is kind of bundled in with that SaaS apocalypse.
Yep.
Microsoft is looking to explode here, and they've been coming up off the lows. So, seeing these names come to life, it really seems like the market is in a good place, at least for now. We're still in a news driven market. We're still going to be very reactionary to news, but as long as the negotiations and ceasefire is on, it looks like the market is going full on risk on at this moment.
Yeah, it sure does. And just one sec, because I'm actually going to follow up with that here in a sec. We did get our PPI reading. Thank you, producer, for throwing that in the chat. Just to read it here real quick. US PPI year over year for for March, excuse me, 4 versus the 4.6% estimate. US PPI month over month for March, 0.5 versus the 1.1% estimate. Core PPI year over year for March, 3.8% versus the 4.2% estimate. And core PPI month over month for March, 0.1 versus the 0.4 estimate. We also had revisions. So the US PPI month over month for February was revised from 0.7 down to 0.5. So that actually got a little bit better. And the US core PPI month over month for February was revised from 0.5 to 0.3. So looks like we got a pretty decent print there. S&P futures holding steady by plus 0.28% here. Let me just, since you're here, Charlie, let me just get your reaction to this. Does this print change how you're looking at today or what you're targeting here today?
Yeah, no, yesterday, if you look at the markets, it was a slow and steady grind, and that's actually,
Indeed.
indicative of a very bullish environment. Lately, over the last few months, we've seen a lot of the volatility and the speed of volatility really be more to the upside, and we were slowly working down, which is generally opposite of what we historically see. We usually take the elevator down and the escalator up. But the markets have been, at least the market participants, they've been accumulating, they've been buying up and off these lows. Even when we had that breakout to the downside below the 200-day moving average, we came to a swing low pivot, and everything has been going up since. And it just showed that the market has retained this bullish behavior, this bullish kind of sentiment throughout the background. And as soon as they've gotten an excuse to really take an aggressive push, we've seen an explosive move in terms of recovery. I mean, it's funny, but we've recovered, 3 times faster than we've gone down, which again, historically just isn't the case.
It's
Usually
the
it's the
opposite.
opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, it kind of just shows you what's happening in the background. A lot of the analysts have a mixed view on where the SPY is, but there's been a lot more chatter, about the upside. JP Morgan came out and said, don't miss the V rally that's going to start taking place yesterday. And again, I think a really good sign for the market health is just seeing Microsoft and Oracle really get into this kind of sustainable rally, because
Mhm.
they're the ones that have been just absolutely getting punished to the downside here. So, when I see those names start to recover, we need Meta to get back above the 200-day moving average. We see Apple starting to firm up here. When we see those names starting to recover, we know we're in a pretty good place. Again, I don't want us to just be overly bullish. I don't want us to only think about things one-sided.
Sure.
Again, until this deal is done, we still have to be careful that the floor could get pulled out from underneath us. But overall, the sentiment has been really, really good. And seeing growth stocks, making this kind of parabolic run over the last few days, it just kind of tells you where the market is and where the market wants to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you on that. And in fact, Meta here, it sure looks like 650 is going to be a line in the sand here. If we can get back above 650, I think that paves the way for that recapture of the 200-day that you were just speaking about. And so I'm just going to put you on the spot here because you literally hit every single key point that we talk about on a regular basis here. So that was absolutely phenomenal. One of the things that we've been kind of I don't want to say looking for, but maybe waiting out over the past several weeks, the pullback here. We got to like 9.95% down from the all-time highs. Okay. So
Yeah.
while it's pulling back, of course, there are people, oh my God, my stocks ticked down. The end is nigh. That's not, of course, the case. We didn't even get to the 10% level by calculation. We got within a stone's throw of that. So let me just ask you here. Do you think that the near-term bottom is in here? Or do you made a really good point that the rug could be pulled. A lot of this depends on the negotiations. So I wouldn't ask you to predict the future or get in the mind of Trump. That's going to be a fool's errand. But do you think that the near-term bottom is in here? Or is there a real risk of maybe us revisiting some of these lows that we just saw in the SPY and maybe setting some new ones? And the reason I ask that is because I too, I don't want people to always be focused on the bull side. I'm a bull myself. I try to keep myself complacent, and I just don't want to get people sucked into a trap where they get puked out on the backside of a rug pull.
Yeah, 100%. Again, let's say news was standing. I feel like ever since the SPY recaptured and recovered above the 50 SMA, that the market dynamics and participants and even just the inflow of what I've been seeing has changed dramatically. And I think that was kind of key. We just leapfrogged just a bunch of moving averages. That's been a heavy suppression point. I mean, in the SPY, we're talking about since we broke down, I believe February 3rd, we got below, yeah, it's somewhere around there, maybe the 12th, we got below the 50 SMA. And it's just been a hard suppression point on the faster EMAs. I tracked the 10 EMA and the 21 EMA on the daily chart, and that's been like a real hood for both the SPY and the Qs. It's been a heavy suppression point. We've been following it down. We lost the 200, and then we've had this V reversal back up. We tested that 200-day moving average for about 3-4 days, and then the SPY on the 8th of this month leapfrogged, opened above the 50, and then for 2 days in a row we tested this level.
Yep.
And all we've done is gone up. And again, since we gotten above, it just seems like the sentiment, the actual prints, and just how stocks have behaved has changed dramatically. So I think for now we're actually making a run for the all-time highs, again, news withstanding. As long as the news remain that they're still negotiating and there's a ceasefire, regardless of what actions the United States does outside of bombing and kind of ramping up conflict, I just believe that we're actually a lot closer to a deal than people suspected. There was rumors that that the U.S. and Iran were actually deep in negotiations and getting closer and closer before, I guess, there was a sticking point, and then I think J.D. Vance just literally got up and left and held a press conference, and it caught Iran off guard. And Iran, in turn, had some pretty harsh comments. But here we are; they're right back they're right back to the negotiating table. It was reported maybe about 15 minutes ago before I jumped on that Iran was mulling pausing shipments in the Strait of Hormuz to avoid derailing talks. So they want to make sure that these talks have substance and leads to somewhere. So, that doesn't tell me that there's, hardline negotiations. It tells me that they're getting closer and closer to the finish line. And again, the market is just eating it up right now.
Yeah, I'm with you there totally on that. And in fact, we also got news that U.S. might host Israel-Lebanon talks today. So it looks like it's not even just Iran, right? It looks like there's a lot of folks talking and really kind of want this conflict to end, like everybody else here, I'm sure does. And credit, there's a lot of unpredictability in this, and we can't possibly forecast all of that. But I agree with you. I think the market is kind of sniffing this out here. So really, really good stuff. Folks, join Charlie Moon this Tuesday at 4:30 Eastern for a live look at the 4-step AI strategy he uses to find high probability trade setups across the entire market in seconds. Charlie, look, we covered an absolute ton here. I see the golf clubs behind you, so I know that you got bit by the bug too. Is there anything else that you think our group should know here before we split for the day?
Well, I'm a Cubs fan. I love golf. I have an unhealthy obsession with golf and golf covers, by the way. Shout out to Swag. Swag is a local based company out of Chicago where I'm from.
Hey, me too, Charlie. I'm a Bettinardi guy, though. I'm a Bettinardi guy, also out of Chicago.
I mean, Betty is also one of the biggest names out there, right? And so, outside of that, I just feel like people just need to stay light on their feet. As things are bullish, trade the trend. But when things get volatile, I always trade the extremes. And if you just kind of adapt quicker to the environment, you will survive the madness and benefit from the real rally. And again, if this deal is done, if the negotiations are settled and they actually define it and they close the deal, we're going to see all-time highs, and we're probably going to make a really, really big run shortly after. So prepare yourself, folks.
Okay, there you go. You heard it from Charlie himself there. Let's see what we get with that deal. Between now and then, it's anyone's guess. Charlie, really appreciate it. Great rundown here today. I love having the local Chicago guys on here. That's my favorite part of the whole thing. So I'll take that all day here. Charlie, take care of yourself. Be well, and we will check in with you next time, okay?
Thank you for having me.
Yep, always. That is Charlie Moon from T3. Folks, definitely scan that QR code there. He's got a really good system there. Said a lot of things that we've been kind of talking about quite a bit here recently. And I got to be honest with you, I love these guys from Chicago. They're the best. They're the best. Between Charlie and Scott, we're blessed. So really good stuff here from our group. Okay. It's 8:45, so we got 15 minutes before before we get 13 on. I do have two more stories here real quick that I wanted to go through. And then also a tweet. We kind of already covered the tweet, so we'll just kind of breeze through that here in a sec. But let me just finish up the news here. I definitely wanted to get to Charlie as early as possible, and I know I was trying to do that around the PPI print. So now we've got that too. By the way, markets holding steady here. SPY holding steady by higher by 0.25% post the PPI read and prior month's revisions. Okay, well, let's go ahead and talk about the rest of this news here. I've got two more very quick stories here. Then we'll get on to ticker time and also 13, where we'll break down the movers here for you. The AI arms race triggers a $143 billion explosion in chip gear spending. And I think, one of the other things here, I'm about to go through a whole bunch of companies. We'll talk about the fundamentals here, and I'm going to run through a whole bunch of companies. But I just want to say that, think about the backdrop that Charlie just gave us here about if there is a actual deal with details. Now, that is a big if. I'm not talking about Trump coming out and saying, we've got a deal, buy stocks. That's not what I mean. If we get an actual deal here and things do seem to get resolved in the near future, maybe not necessarily today, but in the near future, it certainly feels like the market would go to all-time highs. And Charlie there feeling pretty good about a potential strong run shortly after. So just kind of think about that as the backdrop whilst we discussed this story here. Wafer fab equipment, abbreviated as WFE, spending continued its upward trajectory in 2025, underscoring the semiconductors industry's shift towards AI-led growth and advanced manufacturing. Global WFE vendor revenue rose 12% year over year to $143 billion in 2025, driven by large-scale AI infrastructure buildouts. Demand surged for leading-edge logic, high-bandwidth memory, and advanced packaging tools. According to Counterpoint Research's Wafer Fab Equipment Tracker, the top 5 manufacturers posted a combined 14% revenue increase to $114 billion, which is supported by double-digit growth in both systems and services. The WFE outlook remains structurally strong, with revenues projected to grow about 11% year over year in 2026. Growth is expected to skew towards the second half, led by lithography, etch, deposition, process control, and advanced packaging. However, risks do persist. Export controls, infrastructure bottlenecks, and the complexity of the 2-nanometer transition could weigh on timing and execution. Meanwhile, trailing edge segments such as Internet of Things, automotive, and power sensors are likely to remain flat. Foundry logic remained the primary engine, with revenue rising 8% year over year and accounting for 65% of net system sales in 2025. AI-driven demand pushed advanced node adoption, with sub-5 nanometer shipments exceeding 50%. Memory rebounded strongly, with revenue up 16% year over year. Growth was fueled by rising demand for AI-optimized DRAM and NAND, particularly HBM, which is high bandwidth memory. A sharp sequential increase in late 2025 signals continued capacity expansion as suppliers prepare for next-generation memory transition, including high bandwidth memory 4. So they're telling you that this ain't going anywhere. We get the tailwind here of a market that is happy about a deal and a resolution of a conflict and potentially lower oil prices. Look for all of these in unison to move together. China's share of WFE revenue among the top 5 manufacturers declined to 32% in 2025. That is reflecting export controls and shifting regional investments. Growth was offset by capacity expansion in other global hubs as well. Over the past decade, WFE's spending has grown at a 14% CAGR, marking a shift from capacity-driven to technology-driven capital expenditure. Increasing complexity at advanced nodes and packaging is raising tool intensity per chip. Counterpoint analyst Ashwath Rao said, quote, the traditional model of evenly distributed WFE spending is giving way to a new reality, end quote. He added that AI-driven complexity and the 2-nanometer transition are structurally increasing equipment demands across logic and memory. He noted this trend benefits ASML Holdings, which is ticker ASML, Applied Materials, which is ticker AMAT, Tokyo Electron Limited, Lam Research, which is ticker LRCX, KLA Corporation, ticker KLAC, Advantest Corporation, and Teradyne, ticker TER. So for anyone that actually wants any of these tickers that I just listed here, they are all going to be in the article that I just threw in the chat there for you. Make sure I center this for you so you can also copy them off here if you'd like. Rao added that surging HBM demand from Samsung, ticker SSNLF, remember that's on the OTC, SK Hynix and Micron, ticker MU, is shifting value towards foundries such as Taiwan Semiconductor, ticker TSM, and packaging leaders including ASE Technology, ticker ASX, and Amkor Technology, ticker AMKR. Analyst William Lee noted, quote, given ongoing capacity constraints at Taiwan Semiconductor, AI customers are actively securing additional capacity through long-term partnerships with OSAT vendors. As a result, industry capacity for advanced packaging could expand by roughly 80% year over year in 2026. Rao added, quote, we are moving into a cycle dominated by leading-edge foundry, DRAM, and HBM, and advanced packaging. This is driving a higher WFE intensity cycle that will persist through the second half of the decade. So I said all of that to say, hey, these are pretty good technology targets. Better still if they've gone through any type of sizable pullback, if this market does, in fact, get past this current conflict. I know that oil's on everyone's mind here. That should be the primary driver. But boy, oh boy, if we get some good confirmed headlines about this being over and oil starts to move lower here, all of these could be launch pads for potential trades. Okay. Last story here, and this is just kind of an update on one that we've talked about quite a bit. This has to do with the Paramount Warner Brothers deal. Obviously, we focused on the whole Netflix angle of that, but it looks like there might be another problem here. Hollywood creators urge regulators to block the Paramount Warner Brothers deal, and Paramount Skydance has responded. Remember, one of the things that we were saying is that even if Netflix wins this, it's going to have to go through this huge regulatory phase. Well, looks like that's exactly what's happening this time with Paramount. Over 1,000 personalities from the American film and TV industry, including notable figures like Joaquin Phoenix, Ben Stiller, and Kristen Stewart, have publicly expressed their disapproval of the proposed acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery by Paramount Skydance. That's ticker WBD and PSKY. In an open letter, they criticized the merger for favoring the interest of a few influential stakeholders over the wider public good. Stop me if you think that that's kind of funny that actors and elite are saying that the most influential stakeholders are being favored over the wider public good. Stop me if you've heard that before. LOL. Anyway, the signatories of the letter argue that the merger could seriously undermine the integrity, independence, and diversity of the industry. The signatories, which also include several Academy Award winners, argue that the deal would further concentrate the media industry, reducing competition, limiting opportunities and jobs, raising costs, and leaving audiences with fewer choices while shrinking major U.S. film studios to just 4. According to Hollywood, media consolidation has led to the decline of mid-budget films, weakened independent distribution and global sales, reduced profit participation, and undermined screen credit standards. They emphasize that strong competition is vital for both the economy and democracy, urging effective regulation and enforcement. They backed efforts by California Attorney General Rob Bonta and other state officials to investigate and block the deal. Paramount responded with a statement recognizing concerns of the creative community, stressing its commitment to supporting the growing creative talent by asserting that the merger would strengthen competition by enabling multiple scaled players to invest in creators. And that was reported by Variety. Okay. The David Ellison-led company is also committed to producing at least 30 high-quality feature films each year with full theatrical releases, while continuing to license content and maintain its iconic brands under independent creative leadership. This merger has been the topic of contention since the announcement, and in February, renowned director James Cameron warned that the sale of Warner Brothers Discovery to Netflix could severely damage the theatrical film business, likening the potential fallout to a sinking ship. Later, Netflix dropped out and Paramount won the acquisition bid. Last week, Paramount Skydance secured permanent financing for the acquisition, reducing debt from $54 billion to $49 billion through bank-backed loans and credit restructuring. I guess that's a start. Before that, ISS, a prominent advisory firm, backed the Warner Brothers Paramount deal, but rejected CEO David Zaslav's $886 million extraordinary golden parachute. Okay. So we'll see what ends up happening here. We kind of telegraphed this. I know we were looking at it from the Netflix angle, but we had this entire thing pegged from the very beginning. Although the deal has been agreed upon, it looks like there's going to be other hurdles that are going to need to be taken out for this to be effective. Okay, let's go ahead and do a street tweet here. I actually already discussed this a little bit, but let's make it official, shall we? To host Israel-Lebanon talks on Tuesday. That is courtesy of the State Department. So the reason that I brought this one up is very much like Charlie was just saying when we had him on not long ago. It sure feels like we're moving in the right direction. Now, of course, nothing's official. There's a lot of wild cards in it. Nobody's saying otherwise. But sure seems like we're moving in the right direction as far as the negotiations with Iran. This too here, Israel and Lebanon, that bombing campaign back and forth, looks like they're starting to talk now. Let's just hope that this moves towards a solution of diplomacy so we can kind of put this entire conflict past us and see where the next trades are. We'll definitely be watching oil on this today, as well as the broader market. If any of you take new trades on any of this, whether it's bearish, bullish, or otherwise, I would love to know about that. Would love to know about that. Okay, let's get back to Pro here. Bang, bang. Let's put up Benzinga Pro. And let's start taking a look at some tickers. I am expecting 13 any moment now. When we do that, we'll run down some of those smaller movers. But let me know if there are any of the big stocks that you want to take a look at. I'm just going to go ahead and pick SanDisk right off the top. SanDisk is up 2.82% here again this morning. That's almost 27 points. SanDisk shares are trading higher after Evercore ISI initiated coverage on the stock with an outperform rating and announced a $1,200 price target. Now, these things have been absolute monsters, right? These things have been absolute monsters. It looks like this is going to continue to move higher here. Be honest, very, very difficult to figure out a new buy spot unless the stock's absolutely getting pummeled. I mean, both buys at the 20-day and the 50-day have been great. Now it looks like we're kind of pushing higher than this. I would not be surprised, honestly, if this has no chill in it and goes above 1,000, maybe even 1,100 before pulling back. I'm really only interested in this for a swing on the pullback if we get it. But this is what the chart looks like. What a monster move here on SanDisk. And now it's got the upgrade on the back of it. So giddy up for that as well. Now, another stock that I wanted to take a look at real quick, then we'll go ahead and bring on 13 here, is going to be Microsoft. We just had Charlie talking about it. I saw several of you in the chat. I'm sorry, I can't remember all of the names, but I saw several of you in the chat said we're already buying Microsoft. We're already kind of loading Microsoft up here. And as far as the SaaS apocalypse ordeal that we've been talking about some of these stocks kind of already being in actual corrections, I just want to remind you that Microsoft traded down 35.64% from its all-time high. So while we're talking about the SPY here and we're talking about the move that the broader market made, it's important to realize that Microsoft sold off 3 times as much on this recent down move. If you look at the chart here, we're kind of at a support level, aren't we? Kind of looks like we carved out a double bottom here. Maybe Microsoft on its way back up, even to the 200, which is 80 points away from where we're at now. Now, further complicating this, yesterday, we were taking a look at some of the option contracts here for Microsoft. And one of them that got brought up was a gigantic order in the June 480 call. That is the June 480 call, 65 days till expiry. Yesterday, there was just about 24,000 contracts held in the open interest. We saw a volume of 53,481. And today, the open interest of that contract is 74,291. So in other words, traders are holding open the 480 call for June on Microsoft. That currently, I know the market's not open and Microsoft is trading up here in the pre-market by 6-7 points. These contracts were 180 by 185. So this was actually pretty cheap. Pretty cheap contracts. That represents a huge move. This would be an absolute banger trade. If this worked out, in other words, if Microsoft were to go to 480 prior to the June expiry, this would be a 10-bagger trade on those calls. So I don't know for sure that that's going to happen. That is definitely one of the notable option trades that we witnessed yesterday. So we'll see there on Microsoft. All right, got to get 13 in here. I know he's got a lot of good ideas and things to say. Let's go ahead and bring him on. We are going to start our pre-market pulse right now. 13, good morning, boss. How you doing?
Doing all right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody in the chat. How is everybody?
Everyone's good here today, man. There are good vibes floating around everywhere. We're going to keep that rolling. I'm happy to see you. Let me just start off. I know I didn't give you much time to prepare here, and I'm sorry about that. But let me just get your opinion here. We were talking a little bit about Microsoft, kind of against the backdrop of, if the war is to end, there's likely going to be new all-time highs and a big move here in the market. We were talking about Microsoft already kind of being beaten down. There are a number of chatters here that are already looking to buy it. Buffalo by Bicycle saying Microsoft is a buy today. I know we talked about Microsoft yesterday in happy hour, and we were talking about some of the large option transactions. I was able to confirm that we have 74,000 plus contracts held open in that June 480 strike and expiry. So I say all that to say, what do you think about Microsoft right here? What do you think of the chart? What do you think of the company? And perhaps most importantly, if you're willing to share, where do you think it goes next?
Oh, well, Microsoft's a long-term position that I have. I think this will be worth 600 plus in the future. Can't exactly say when that's going to happen. Maybe we'll likely see 500 this year. If the war ended today, we certainly would. I think that we have there was an area like a little bit higher up from here, about where we're at actually right now, where I thought this was about where we were going to go down to, and we still ended up moving closer towards 350. So we did drift underneath where I thought we would be, the bottoming at. But as soon as we recapture this 50-day SMA, I think that's one of the last confirmations we need that we're back into recovery mode. Need to see several closes over that moving average. But the only other thing I'd be wanting to see after that is just to hold over 400. So just we're getting very close to turning around, and we're turning around now, but we're getting really close to recovering. Just need to see a couple more boxes checked, and that 50-day SMA is a big one.
Okay. Looks like we're going to get a test of that here today. Microsoft 391.01, you're high in the pre-market. I've got 392.09 as the actual 50-day moving average there. So only 1 point away from possibly testing that. And I agree with you. We would love to see multiple closes above that. We'll see if we can get our first one here today. Really quick, CoinFox, if you liked Microsoft at 550, you'll love it at 380. Indeed. And I'm kind of wondering if that's what we're seeing here, right? Microsoft, huge AI player. Again, this is a monster company. Clearly, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think this represents a pretty good opportunity here as it's down 35+% from its all-time highs. But if you were making a bull case when it was 500 plus, you probably loading up hand over fist down here at 380, especially if the bottom is in here. Also, one more comment here. I guess not really a comment. Scarlett, good morning. I guess Scarlett said just good morning to you, but good morning, Scarlett, regardless. Jay, good morning. Thinking about it, good morning. Anyone else that I might have missed? Zippity doodah. Good morning. Okay, good stuff there on Microsoft 13. Do you want to go ahead and break down the movers now? We can always come back to larger stocks when we're done.
Sure. Let's get these movers out of the way.
All right, fantastic. I'm going to start with one. AVNS, there's nothing going on here because this is a buyout. Cool. Yep. One down. Next is going to be Roller. This is ROLR. This is High Roller Technologies. Y'all should be familiar with this one because we've traded this one in the past, and it was a banger in the past as well. I can't remember who all was on this one, but good golly, Miss Molly, this thing was wild last time we traded it. Let's see if we get the same thing here today. Worth noting, we have entered the fair value gap already. That was created here, and we have already bounced from it. So there is one on this chart, but it is no longer unmitigated, despite that happening in the pre-market. So we'll see if this provides some support, but this is not just a trigger to take the trade. High Roller Technology shares are trading higher after the company announced it executed a definitive agreement with Crypto.com to enter the U.S. prediction market. Okay, prediction market headline there. That is sending this thing higher. In fact, I don't know what's wrong here, but this stock higher by 86%. Thing closed below $5 yesterday. Looks like we're touching 10 here. Quick peek at the short interest on this one. 4.96% of the float is shorted with 2.67 days to cover. So while there is some short interest there, I certainly wouldn't be calling for a squeeze. We can talk about a squeeze if you want, aka CAR, but we'll do that a little bit later. On average, the stock trades 2.41 million shares. It has a float of 5.95, so just about 6 million shares. 13, what do you think here on ROLR?
Well, the company entered into a binding letter of intent with Crypto.com. Oh, I'm just kidding. That's the news from January 14th when this thing was soaring over 300%. The news today is actually that they made a definitive agreement with Crypto.com to enter the U.S. prediction market. So almost the same news. It's not, but almost the same news for Roller here with Crypto.com. This is a more definitive agreement, not the letter of intent that we had last time. So maybe we see this move up here and then it kind of sells off, because this might be a bit of a sell the news event, because this was everything that we were getting news-wise today was all said back in January 14th, that this is the path that High Roller was going to take. Here we are. So there could be a lot of back and forth. We're seeing a lot of great upside in the pre-market here. It looks like it's having a hard time getting and staying over 10. We have printed 10.10 this morning, but no closes over that 10 handle yet. The company does have some cash. They're going to need to raise more capital, though, and they do have just under 6 million shares in the float. That's what's moving here today. I'm kind of concerned about this inability to get a hold above 10. There's clearly a seller in the way there. But if we do start to leak, we do have some support at VWAP. That's probably going to be the only support levels that I really see here. There's probably a fair value gap in there from all this moving up here. I would say maybe 750 could provide some support possibly, but I don't know that it's going to be as strong as where I'm seeing with VWAP here. So that's the support that I see. Resistance at $10. We'll see what we get when we open.
Okay, that's a fabulous breakdown. Let me start at the end there with the whole fair value gap thing. So first of all, this is the fair value gap that I have identified. Remember, the genesis of this is off of the 15-minute chart. So if you use a smaller time frame in order to generate those gaps, excuse me, you may have more of them. But this is what I have. And I actually, in addition to this 13, my study that tells me when to buy and when to sell also flagged to buy right here on this candle. So it looks like so far it's worked. Here's the point that I want to stress to you. The fair value gap is no longer unmitigated. So that's one thing. However, look where the VWAP is. It is literally right at the bottom of that gap area. So I would not be shocked if this stock comes in and takes out the gap, tests the VWAP, maybe even peaks below it, and still gives us a bounce. Now, your breakdown there of what happened the last time, that was phenomenal. And I agree. I think that there is likely going to be a sell the news thing here. Remember, back in January, when you talked about that before, this is what the stock did. So on the anticipation of that, this stock ran up to a 33 handle before coming all the way back down to single digits. Now we're getting the definitive news. 13, your call about 10 being significant resistance, that is easily identifiable off the chart. I completely concur with you. I think 10 is going to be an extremely important level to not only get above, but stay above if we want higher. But here's my call. I don't know. I think your sell the news thing is spot on there. I am pretty confident in saying I don't think we get a print into the 30 handle. Maybe this does run. Someone in here is saying 12 next. Who was that? West Capital says this is going to 12. Could totally see it. Could totally see another $2 from where we're at, 250 from where we're at right now. I don't know if we want to hold out for 30s. That's all.
Yeah, and you know, I'm at a spot right now where we could see this move through 10 that finally we can, you know, hold above it. But we're so close to having the MACD indicate that we're going to be coming back down to test VWAP soon that I'm just going to wait and see what this does in the pre-market, and maybe there's a better opportunity when we are in the regular session. Looks like we're trying.
I was going to say, Brent here was saying it's rejecting hard at 945. Just tried to run through that here, 960. Well, I'm sure we'll check back in on Roller. Anyone that's traded this already, congrats. That was a huge move. But really good breakdown there, 13. Excellent stuff on this one. Okay. Next here is going to be TVTX. This is Travere Therapeutics. Travere Therapeutics shares are trading higher after the company announced that the FDA approved Filspari to reduce proteinuria, not sure what that is, in adult and pediatric patients aged 8 years and older with focal segmental, I'm not even going to try that, without nephrologic syndrome. Okay, so that was a complete mess. TVTX here, a lot of good information on some of its treatments. This thing popped. It closed at about, what, $30? Yeah, just shy of $31. It's up 35% here. It was 4 points higher here. 45 seems to be that pre-market resistance. If we take a look at the daily chart here, man, that's actually higher than 45. Let's see what else we got up here. I'm pretty sure, didn't we have? I guess not. So this would be a new all-time high break if we're able to get above this previous candle, at least from what I see here on the chart. So we'll see what kind of action we get here. Quick peek at the short interest on this name, 14.68%, 11 days to cover. Now, look, I know we're not 20+% on the float shorted here. This could still have some squeeze action here today, so keep that on the back burner as well. 13, what do you think here for TVTX?
Well, hold on a second here. Okay, yeah, so the float, 91 million shares, a little bit heavier. Roller finally just pushed through 10. This approval comes on with a company that has 2 quarters of profitability and cash, so we want to see them, maintain that profitability. But they also have some short interest here, 14.6% with 11 days to cover. I think that helped move this from 30 to 40 pretty easily. So we could see this fill the gap to the downside. That's kind of what I'd be watching for here.
Okay.
It doesn't look like we are really being able to hold above 44, and we're losing 42. I don't have levels here because we basically entered a gap. Let me go to my chart, see if I can find something here. So we are at 41.5. That's pretty much right at the top end of the January highs. So we may end up, we could end up giving that back, but I don't know exactly how we're going to see this one trade. I'm just a little bit concerned about the share structure being a little bit heavy,
Sure.
a little bit extended here at some of the January highs. I don't think these are the all-time highs. No, they are. So yeah, we could give some of this back. I don't know how much, but looks to me like 40 is going to be your next spot, and then after that, we could really drop down to about 37.5.
All right, and I can't really, unfortunately, I can't really help you much with the fair value gap because according to the indicator, this is it.
Yeah.
Not only is it in it, but it basically comprises the entire impulse move higher. This is a nonsensical data point. I would not use this for any trade.
Roller did break out through 10. We're up in the
it sure
handle now. So 10 is support as we approach the open.
Okay. Throw your rollies in the sky and wave them side to side and keep your hands high. For anyone that's had listened to rap music from the 90s, that's what I'm going to be thinking in my head here on Roller all day. I do want to cover something here from the chat, so maybe we'll just do that now real quick. Then we'll do a couple more here. I did want to comment on Jay's comment here because this is something that we had discussed yesterday regarding car. Here is car. This is Avis budget group. This is car rental. This is what the stock looks like. Okay. This is the graphical representation of a short squeeze without a doubt. In fact, if you observe the short interest tab, you'll see that 53.66% of the float traded with 7.27 days to cover. And that actually came down from the 14 reading that we had previously there. This stock absolutely trading higher on a short squeeze. It is complete vertical. There were a number of folks that were trading this in the happy hour. Shout out to them. But Jay's comment here, David Prince going out 2 weeks and buying puts in size and willing to lose it all. That's notable because the May 1st expiry, which is 17 days away, the 295 put is 25 by 35. So you're talking $2,500 to $3,500 per contract. David's going in size. Look, I get it. I think this thing comes back to earth too, but that is awfully, awfully expensive. Jay, I appreciate you bringing this up. Let me know if you take this trade or what strikes and expiry you're looking at. And I would actually ask more than just Jay. If anyone else is interested in this trade, I want to hear about it. Without a doubt, I want to hear about it. But just, oh my gosh, just crazy. Market Sniper says, Avis, we try harder. Yeah, try to go to the moon harder. I mean, just what a huge move up here. So, Jay, thanks for bringing this up. Thanks for the David Prince context. I would call to action for the rest of the group. If you have anything here on car, let me know. Do you want me to send David's morning AM note? Yeah, I would love to take a look at that. If you want to tweet that to me, I can share it if you think that that's acceptable. Okay, next here is going to be Santa. And yeah, Zach, I'll make sure we get to UAVS. I'll make sure we get to that. Santa's the next one, though. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the news section. They, of course, announced a strategic collaboration with the Mayo Clinic. Santa Biotechnology shares are trading higher if the company announced a strategic collaboration with Mayo to advance the development of SC451. Also, the company sold 7.5 million shares at $333 per share for $25 million for that Mayo Clinic. This is what the chart looks like. Sure looks like there's some significant resistance up here at 420. We're basically holding right at 4 at the moment. Quick peek at the short interest on this name, 46.22% of the float shorted with 12.36 days to cover. So perhaps we have another potential squeeze area here. 13, that's what I'd really like to get your opinion on. The other thing I notice here, we got a trend line that gives us a pretty immediate target. And frankly, we could probably also draw a support trend line on the bottom of that. So 13, what do you got here on Santa?
I didn't cover this one, so I was just looking at their pipeline to see what SC451 is about. That's a stem cell derived islet cells for diabetes, type 1 diabetes. So they are collaborating with the Mayo Clinic to improve care in type 1 diabetes and accelerating the development of that drug. that's what this is moving off of. Now let's take a look and see what is making this thing tick. The float is 85 million shares, a little bit heavier there. Short interest pretty high. Did you cover the short interest?
Yes, it's gigantic.
Yeah, it's gigantic. It is. So maybe there's another car here. Whoever said roller was going to 12, they weren't kidding. This is almost there. Santa has, let me go to their cash. So they lose a lot of cash, no revenue. They've got 71 million in the bank. So based on this cash burn rate, that's going to be about a quarter that they've got, and they're going to have to raise capital pretty soon after that. So there's looking like they're going to have to do some with maybe the short-term investments can be liquidated into cash, so they could have 2 quarters on their hand, maybe 3. But they're going to have to raise capital at some point in the future, unless this deal with the Mayo Clinic, that share purchase, the 25 million, also helps further this along beyond that 3 quarter time horizon. But either way, this company is going to have to raise capital at some point in the future. Probably not going to likely be today. I wouldn't expect that, but they are a cash burner. So just keep that in mind. Let's look at some levels here on the chart. Where are we at? Almost 4. Well, the $4 you have, or just shy of $4, you have the 500 and 200-day SMAs. So there's 2 moving averages right there in the way. $4 also looks like that's a big resistance area. If we manage to get above it, it looks like you have some resistance at about 440, and then I would just say $5 even after that. We'll see if we can, if it climbs higher than that, we'll explore other additional levels. But 440 and 5 are the next upside levels I see from here if we can get through that 200 and 500-day SMA.
Okay. Crispy Biscuit says, roller has made my week. That's what we want to hear. That's really, really awesome and really, really good stuff. Okay. 13, was there anything else on your list?
I had SLNH. I don't know what that's doing right now.
Okay. We'll go to that here in a sec. Let me really quickly take UAVS here, just so we don't run out of time. I'll turn it over to you actually for SLNH. UAVS, this is another drone company here. You can see I actually did take a look at this earlier today. Right after the impulse move, we actually did get a fair value gap. We came into it. We bounced from it. It's no longer unmitigated, so I don't think we need that going forward anymore, but decent bounce here. AG Eagle Aerial Systems, or UAVS, shares are trading higher after the company announced a strategic investment in Third Eye Systems and the establishment of a joint venture. Now, this stock, penny stock, but it's still in the drone category, so it's done pretty well here. 10 minutes in Israel's Third Eye system. Now, I actually need to read a little bit more about the Third Eye system, but this is a counter drone system here. So I actually think that this is quite timely, just with what we're seeing out of the conflict. So a pretty good PR on today, or here today. You can see it's actually causing the stock to move here. I'm just a little cautious on this one, just a little bit. UAVS has never really been my favorite drone play.
Look at the volume. I think that's kind of telling you where the risk is, because we got most of the volume came with the first impulse move, and then it has really faded since then. And now we're pretty much trading as if that we're barcoding essentially. So this is, I need to see more volume with this, because it seems like the whole move came at 7:15, and we haven't really seen much of that since. If you're looking for some big upside moves, go back to roller, because that's the one that's given them. This one, unless that volume starts to pick up, I don't know that there's a whole lot here. Maybe it trades better once we open, but that volume needs to improve if we're going to be able to successfully trade this.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see what we get here, Zach. Let me know what you have as far as your trade plan on UAVS. Not my favorite, but worth mentioning here today, especially with the catalyst. Okay, 13, SLNH. This is Soluna Holdings. So not Solana, but Soluna Holdings. It's up 24%. I'm actually just going to step away and turn this over to you, all right?
Okay. So this is moving on, but I don't think there's any news that it's moving on, but it's moving in relation to the software rebound. We're seeing a lot of software names come back up. The news here from Monday is that they are experiencing a sector rebound. This is getting hit with that as well. You also have a little bit of a high short interest, 17.67% with 7.13 days to cover. That's in the parameters we're looking for a short squeeze. So there is a bit of short covering happening here. The float is a little bit heavier, close to the TVTX float. It's 89 million shares. Not my favorite, size, but it's still providing some trades here. It's just a little bit more muted because of how heavy it is. The company does have 4 quarters of cash, so I don't think there's any risk of this needing to raise soon. But this one of the ones that was on the movers chart. It had some pretty decent short interest. Maybe it provides a trade. There's certainly other things out there that might provide better trades. So just keep this on your radar. If nothing else is moving, see if this provides a setup. Otherwise, back to roller we go. All right. What else we got here, chat? So Lion, you're grabbing $400 Microsoft calls that expire next month. That makes sense to me. Microsoft doing much better. We're seeing them come back up. Still think that we're going to see, 500, maybe even 600 this year, especially if this situation in the Middle East cools off, open up the strait and the blockade ends. And you're also looking at Broadcom 400 calls as well. I mean, these are 2 companies I'm in. I think they're both going to do great. So I don't disagree whatsoever. G-Man mentioning Marvell. Is that continuing higher today?
Marvell 138, higher by another 4.3% here. How's 3D doing today?
It looks like Marvell is getting ready to push higher as we approach the open. It's kind of flagging in the pre-market here. Yeah. Got a little bit of a trend you could probably draw from the 139 high through that secondary move that tried to go and take it out. So we'll see if we get a break out of there. VWAP obviously is going to be your support, followed by, I would say, 135, and then the 65 EMA and MRVL. What else?
ASPI, did you go over that while I was gone?
No, I didn't.
Okay, there was a couple of people. Well, Rooster was asking about it, but I think there were several other people at the beginning of the show, including Empyrean, who said that they were interested in this. ASPI, so I don't have anything here, so just give me a sec to kind of go over it. What?
High short interest, almost within our days to cover parameter, very close, but still high short interest with this one.
Pre-commercial stage materials company dedicated to the development of technology and processes that, if successful, will allow the production of isotopes that may be used in several industries. Okay. And then you were talking about the short interest here. Let me display that. 23.32%, just about 5 days to cover. They're at 487. On average, trades 5 million shares, done 138 million here. Float is 110 million. So it's a bit thicker than some of the other movers. But I believe, here's what the daily chart looks like. Rooster, you'll have to, I can't scroll all the way back up to the beginning. I believe several of you had different chart areas on this, or you're looking to sell this at like 8 or something like that. Help me out here. I can't remember what the exact plan is. I think the big question here is, has the stock actually bottomed? Right? Because it does look like we're trying to trade back up. Now, I can't help it, but if I look at this, like, I'd actually want to, I'm going to go from the,
maybe
the big.
It loses so much money. It seems like $5 was previously support, and now it's resistance. I think that's kind of the thing I'd be wanting. Just the immediate next thing I would need to see is a close above the 50-day SMA and continue to hold above 5. If we get that for several days, I think we could go on to recapture the 500, which is going to be the next area.
Okay. Rooster says he's looking for 839. Rooster, what's going to get us there?
839. So basically the kind of support from 2025 when we had all this price action in the summer and then we lost it in November. That's about, where that 839 area is. It's kind of support. I don't know what's going to get us there. There's certainly a trend line that I see starting from the January high, going through the March high, and then I think we're kind of touching that trend line today.
Yeah, I like that trend line a little bit more, honestly. I think this is kind of what you're talking about. I like that more.
So, I mean, I don't know what's going to get us up here. I don't know enough about this company, and but it does look like it's trying to turn around and may have bottomed. So,
And real quick here, we're about to open. SPY Q's up 9 days in a row. Not the time to be buying big trim and trail. We've been saying that. I was trying to advise people to do that yesterday. Maybe advise the wrong word, but hint at that. All right.
here we go.
We are about to open, and we're open.
All right.
SPY, first move out of the gate up there. I'm going to wait that one out a little bit.
So roller coming back in. We didn't quite hit 12, but we got to 1190. We're getting some support. Now we're pushing back up.
Now we want this to come back in, right? That's the whole thing here. We wanted roller to come back in, set up for another move. This is going to halt at 1156.
Yeah, it's going to halt. Oh, it almost
didn't hold it there. So they pulled off of that halt a little bit. I apologize. That was an early call. I try to avoid
No. It was looking like that too, because it was stacking up at just one price. But looks like somebody came in and took it down. SLNH. This is pushing away from the VWAP, but quite slowly. 125 is the pre-market high. TVTX not doing a whole lot. Microsoft's sold just before we opened. Now it's trying to turn around.
Lucid, this popped in the pre-market. This is actually moving through VWAP on volume. News here is that they're trading higher after the company announced an expansion of its partnership with Uber and additional long-term investment from the public. That actually says pubic, but it meant public. And that's actually kind of a funny, I'm going to screenshot that because that's just for the lulz there. Oh my God.
Right, frame it and send it to the news desk.
Could you please? What do you think I'm going to do? I mean, I like to have jokes here, so I like the jokes.
All right, let's see what we got here. Looks like we're getting some weakness with red wire here. That's okay. It's been having a pretty good couple of days. Yeah, Lion, we have been talking, pretty frequently about the SpaceX IPO and how it's going to cause some of these other space names to move. I've been saying that for several weeks since it was announced that they were going to come out with an IPO. Don't think we have a definitive date on when that IPO is, but they did say June. My guess right now is going to be June 4th, just because that's when they had their first Falcon 9 maiden flight. So that's why I think June 4th. Probably not going to happen, but it's Elon. All right. So TVTX finally showing some signs of life here, trying to climb into the 40s some more. SNDK down. That was had a really nice move out of the gate. So, or I'm sorry, it had move up this week. So would expect some profit taking. So high roller. Are we gonna?
That just got an upgrade.
What? SNDK?
SNDK Evercore ISI went to 1200 on it. So if this keeps pulling back, who's buying this for a move back higher?
Well, aren't funds going to be buying that? Because isn't SNDK entering the NASDAQ 100?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's who's buying.
Well, so is this a buying opportunity?
Maybe.
Food for thought. Food for thought. Okay, roller never ended up halting, is now back into a 10 handle. I'd like to see that come back into the VWAP. That's at 9.25. That actually might set up for a potential bounce spot there. SPY's continuing to trade higher here, 688.30. Keel is getting spammed by thinking about it. And this is why. Huge pop.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Software, huh? Digital infrastructure and energy company.
And it's a good call from Westcap again. By the way, Westcap, great call on the roller to 12. I know it didn't quite print that. Printed at 1190. That's pretty damn good. By the way, Bitcoin here, 75K. That actually looks like it's curling too, which might go higher intraday. And Bitcoin, of course, as we've always said, has been one of our risk-on indicators.
So last week, this company, Keel, filed a prospectus for a mixed offering shelf. So just keep that in mind. Looks like they're trying to raise capital.
Kathy, what happened here on BE? I know you were mentioning BE. This thing spiked out of the gate, immediately reversed. Looked like it was going to go back to the pre-market low.
Microsoft, after dropping into the open, has recovered all of it and printing higher now.
Expanded partnership with Oracle to handle the build out of its AI and cloud computing infrastructure. Then as far as Oracle, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, BE. I think they've been getting a whole bunch of backup system contracts for data centers. That is my understanding, but they're on the fuel cell side, I believe. All right, and don't worry, Lion. I'm always on these space names because I'm laser focused on the developments out of Starbase. We just had some spin prime tests happen earlier this week or yesterday actually. So we're getting ready for our Flight 12 launch, and I think that's going to really start to kick off some of these space names here.
Really quick here, Lion is mentioning that Oklo is printing. Look at this 13. Look at this wedge that we have on the daily chart, and Oklo is about to test that. So maybe we get a break here, Lion. What do you think? I've got this value at about 62.25. And then Cam, great to see you this morning. My broker says CAR is set to closing transactions only. What broker is that, by the way? Just out of curiosity. SPY continuing to trade higher here. 689.03, your high print post open.
Yeah, it's a nice wedge there in Oklo, but I think I'm still on that whole. Well, let me look at their finances real quick. I'm still on that whole. Do they have enough money? Are they making money? They have no revenue yet. They're just losing money right now. So, this keep that in mind because it's going to be a while before you're going to see revenue with a company like this. But I do believe that nuclear is and natural gas are going to be the future. All right, it's looking good here.
Oklo, Lion here saying, I think so, Ryan, Oklo come down big in 2027. Okay, but you when you said I think so, do you think it's going to break out of this wedge at all? Let me know.
This could maybe climb up to 80. I don't want to make any predictions or expectations for this or any of the nuclear names because we're still pretty far out for some of these names even seeing profitability. Roller actually rolling over.
No, I love that. Rolo, dude. That's its new name, Rolo. I love that. I love that. By the way, real quick, Kath, are you playing this Bloom Energy bounce? Looks like this basically came back into the bottom of this candle. I do have a small fair value gap there. It looks like it's bouncing here. I'm a little late to this would be a chase for me. Let me know if you're playing the bounce. That was a really good timely call.
Oracle and Microsoft doing really well. Looking for a recapture of the 50-day SMA and IGV. I think that's going to be a big signal for us too, because since we started all this weakness, that was last year, and November 5th or 4th, I'm sorry, was the last time that actually one more day before that. November 3rd was the last time we actually closed above the 50-day SMA. So that's going to be something to watch for. It's a close above the 50-day SMA, and I would also say a recapture of 84. I think that's one of the big levels to get above. Revenue in late 2027 for Oklo. Is it that soon? Rollo Tomasi. That's the first thing I thought of when I said that, Joe. That was such a great movie, LA Confidential.
That is a really good one. That's one I haven't watched in a long time. I might be trying to do that here. That's a really good mention. Kathy says, I'm in at 200 on Bloom. Yeah, that's a 2-point bounce already, Kathy. I don't know if that's a short-term trade for you or if that's a swing trade, but I'll tell you what, that was a really, really good mention and really good entry if you got it down there at 200. Really quick here, I wanted to cover this. I'll be brief. 13, Chicago Realtor, good morning. It's great to see you again, as always. Can I get your thoughts on Ford? It's moving higher today on an upgrade. Selena was also saying that. We actually had an article here on Ford. I opted not to do it because I didn't know how many people traded Ford. So I went with some other news since we were kind of pressed for time here today, but I threw that story there in the chat. This is touting the automaker's domestic manufacturing capabilities. The CEO, Farley, in an op-ed wrote, he said the automaker believes in Bet on America will always pay off. The article also shared how Ford assembled over 1.8 million vehicles in the U.S. while exporting 311,000 units to other markets, and all of that. Ford assembles more than 6 vehicles in America. So I guess the question here is the upgrade. It's great. It's having a really good move here today. Who's looking to be long Ford for a swing or an investment? That's I guess where I'm trying
Not
to
at
get
this
here.
price.
Not so you like this lower, right? Because we talked about this at 10 and even single digits in the past.
Yeah, if it's single digits, I think there's a better opportunity. When it's double digits, not for me.
Okay. Retro says I've been in Ford forever, 1,500 shares at 9-ish. So glad you're up here a couple $1,000, but man, I feel like this thing just chops around that range there. SPY 689.35 your high. Let's remember we talked about 690, 691. We'll see.
My Chewy idea seems to be working so far. I'm looking for so I think we have an inverse head and shoulders here on the Chewy chart and on a daily chart, and it's a big one. You might need to use like a weekly or a monthly, but I think this is trying to turn around here, and we're having a pretty good day today.
So on this weekly here, 13, what do you think about a potential inverse head and shoulders down here?
That's what I said.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the inverse head and shoulders.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm looking at. So we might be starting to form the right shoulder now. We should be going up towards 50. And if we do get a resolution of this head and shoulders, we're breaking through 50. So, I don't want to make it, too early of a call and be like, oh yeah, it's definitely working. It's showing some really good signs that this is starting to work, but we need to clear, I would say, 28 for me to really be like, oh yeah, we're starting to get going here.
Okay. All right. I saw a couple of you 13, you were talking about the space stuff earlier. I think Ryan, you were talking about you had some Rocket Lab or ASTS calls.
I got Rocket Lab, I've got Redwire, and I've got Velo 3D, and I have one other one. I think those are all the ones that I have for my space theme. The news on Chewy, there isn't news, Sal. It's just I'm going off the pattern, a long-term pattern.
Really quick, Canarp, Anne-Marie Bent coming up soon. No, actually, remember, we talked about this last week. We don't have Anne-Marie here today. She is welcoming new members into her family. So she will not be joining us this week. We look forward to having her back next week, but no Anne-Marie show here today or Friday. Sorry, Canarp.
But don't worry, she'll be back next week.
She absolutely will be back. There's nothing more important than family, so we're gonna let her go.
All right, let's see what we got here. Looks like Microsoft's trying to hang out at this area. We might see 400 in Microsoft today if this price action we're seeing continues.
I wanted to check those. And Lion, how about that XLF short that we put on yesterday? Immediately into the red, and XLF just traded up all day. I actually was wondering if we were going to get any help on that from some of the bank earnings here today, but no bueno. XLF keeps going higher. So Microsoft. So taking a quick look here, it actually looks like So those calls that I was talking about looks like there's 14,300 in the volume today. Those contracts are up 51%. They're 268 by 275. Remember, those are the June 480s. So it looks like there might be a little bit of profit taking on that. I would get, if that were me, that's what I would do. If I had a position that size, I'd peel a little bit, an immediate 50% gain. But boy, oh boy, those 480 calls for June still popping. Apple at the highs as well. Goldman Sachs at the highs. Palantir at the highs. MBIS at the highs. So all of those things seem to be working. SPY continuing to trade higher here, 689.87. So our 690, 691 possible resistance area coming in right off the bat here on SPY.
BMNR really starting to move now. Got a big seller in a way at 22.99. This is the Ethereum stock that I'm on. Ever since we talked with Corey. in happy hour. This is this is the one I'll trade or invest in for Ethereum.
We can't win them all. Indeed, Lion. And you know what? It's early on that, right? Those are the May expiry, so maybe we get a turnaround here. But I'll tell you what, Lion, I think if this market does in fact rip and we go set some new all-time highs, financials are going to go with them. We're going to lose on that trade. There's Corey. Good morning, Corey. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining us as always.
He heard his name. Yep, go BMNR.
His ears are burning, as they say. Matt here saying, good morning. Good morning, Matt. Thanks for joining us. If you guys think we're out of the woods, I am not sure this is green lights ahead. So
we're not out of the woods.
Yeah, so we talked about this. First of all, for the conflict itself, we want something official rather than some post or tweet. We want to see actual official end to the conflict. That would be one thing to kind of take us higher. But the other thing that we've looked at here on SPY is that we've really kind of been range bound and we're just trading to the top end of the range. So unless we set some new massive all-time highs here, I am skeptical on saying that we're totally out of the woods yet. I'm still keeping some of my powder dry in case we run over. But I am kind of looking now for some new plays here, especially if we break out and it looks like we're going to keep moving higher for multiple sessions. Eric says, "No way we are out of the woods.
No
but
way.
You got to try and get the money when the go. I think when it's getting good, when the getting is good. Okay, when the getting is good. So." Indeed. Again, I don't think anything's official yet, but we're going to keep trying here. Just going to keep powder dry no matter what. By the way, Bloom Energy, which we took a look at earlier on Kathy's mention, continuing to bounce here. I'll tell you what, Kathy, that 200 entry was crispy. 4 points on that already.
Yeah, we also had, just one sector do really, really well this year so far, energy. I mean, it's far and away the best performing sector.
Yeah.
And that's made
by a large margin.
That's made some of the other smaller, less performing sectors look really attractive. Those sectors are going to be information technology, consumer discretionary, and the last one. Give me 1 second because I can't remember what it was. But
I'm going to pull up the graphic because I'm going to share it with the group again since we love it so much.
It was financials. So that's
you did it faster than I could. Damn.
So that's why probably one of the reasons why you're seeing such a big move in financials. They're the most hammered down sector year to date.
And then energy up 38.3%. The next highest is, I think that's materials at 9.7%. I've given this tool out before. It's a great one. I'm going to give it out to you folks again here. Link is in the chat for anyone interested in it. Not affiliated with Benzinga, just a great interactive tool.
Yep. So Marvell not slowing down here. This coming all the way back down to some of the pre-market lows. And high roller still trying to hold 10. Maybe it does. Maybe it goes on to recapture VWAP.
So here's Marvell. So that popped and came back in here today. We'll see if it finds some support. Here's roller, which you were just talking about. Oh, come on. There we go.
See how in the pre-market we were getting that resistance at 10. We finally broke out. And now that resistance that we broke out of is behaving as support. So this is where the support is. If we lose 10, then I think we head down to the 65 EMA.
Okay. So if we lose, and then also I've got VWAP here at 950.
All right. So what else is going on?
Bitcoin. Bitcoin through 75K on the futures. That has been a great risk on. That is continuing. Palantir, MBIS, Goldman Sachs, Tesla, all higher. Amazon higher.
GameStop to launch digital trading card platform. They're turning things around.
You know what's funny about the whole trading card thing? So I was just in the airport. I don't think I've ever realized this before. They have self-checkout kiosks at the airport, like multiple, not just one, but like multiple for people to buy trading card packs and rip the packs open. Now, it's not digital cards, but I mean, I tell you what, these collectible cards, I feel like this is really kind of taking off recently. I seem to see that stuff more and more.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm really into the whole digital card thing. The trading, the tangible trading cards, that's something you can actually hold on to. But
Yeah.
you get into the digital trading cards, and it's like, okay, so we're doing NFTs again. I mean, that's what it feels like.
I saw 5 at airports. Izzy, my son is killing cards. So Izzy, so let me ask you, have you bought any or allowed your son to buy any cards from those kiosks? Do you actually get good pulls? I saw another kiosk there where you basically, it's like one of those claw machines where you go to get a stuffed animal, but you get a random prize. And one of the prizes can be a Charizard card, which apparently is worth a whole bunch of money. It's expensive. Yeah, everything at the airport is expensive. I was wondering that myself. Okay, interestingly enough, my SPY indicator is giving me a buy signal on that little bit of a pullback. I'm going to not take that. We pretty much traded right up to the resistance area that I was watching, and we backed off of it a little bit. I am going to pass on this one. I hope those are not famous last words. I hope I don't regret that later today.
We were getting asked about...
oh my God! I'm sorry. A first edition PSA 10 Charizard goes for maybe 3 million plus. Oh my gosh! I'm sorry, 13. That number literally bugged my eyes out.
We were getting asked about ALO. It popped on Monday with 80% due to good news and gave it all back due to an offering. Yeah, that's. I mean, I don't have an opinion. It's a biotech. It's going to needs cash, especially if they don't have any revenue. So that's exactly what's going to happen with these. They're going to pop on great news. Everybody's going to, start trading it. And then they're going to, sometimes they'll drop an offering if they need the cash. Let me look at their financials real quick. They don't have any revenue. They have like about 250 in cash and short-term equivalents. But they do lose like 40 to 50 million a quarter. So, I mean, I don't have an opinion on ALO, an Allogene. I mean, we looked at this yesterday. It had a piece of news, but no revenue is just a day trade only.
I'm sorry for digressing here, but you guys are giving me crazy stats. Producers throwing a stat here. The card market is no joke. It's got better returns than the S&P over the last 25 years. And then I'm reading Scott's comments here. My son is way too into Pokemon cards. He buys collections from people and then pieces them out for profit. Scott, you got an entrepreneurial son on your hands right now. That's actually pretty awesome. Scott goes on to say you can't even find Pokemon cards in the store half the time. It's insane how into them people are.
Yeah, they have full-on swap meets with Pokemon cards, and
I think Izzy goes to those. I think Izzy and his son go to those. Izzy, correct me if I'm wrong but
people trade there too.
Man, I'll tell you what, this market has come a long way from when I used to play Magic the Gathering at my local card shop. We used to trade cards with one another. Now people going to swap meets, selling out. I wish I was doing that what was I doing? Oh, that's right. I was riding bikes and touching grass when I was younger. That's right. Here's Meta, by the way. We talked about this one really needing to get above 650 earlier. This is higher now. Meta up almost $17, almost 3% here. Indeed.
Looks like Marvell found some support down near the 200 EMA on the 5-minute. Trying to turn around here. This thing really lost a lot of height.
That privacy guy says, not me sitting here with a case of trading cards from back in the day. Sounds like I need to start looking at those. Yeah, maybe that's not a bad idea. I'll tell you what, let me know if you find something in your collection that's crazy. I still have my Magic cards, but I don't think those are worth anything.
I've got a whole bunch of Marvel collector cards. I don't know if there's going to.
I have a Marvel X-Men set. I can't remember the exact name, but I have like the complete set, including the see-through cards and the holograms. I should look at that too. You guys are giving me some ideas now.
Can we check SNAL?
SNAL. I think Brent was trading that earlier here today. Here's what it looks like. I pulled this up earlier. I didn't see an entry on it though.
Well, this thing had shot from underneath $1 to over $1. Let's take a look here. Because I think what you're looking for upper resistance. Let's see what we got here. I mean, it's trying to work its way through the 500-day SMA right now. It's just slightly above it. This area that we're coming up to, there's going to be, it looks like there could be some resistance at 138, that high from October 6th. Maybe just underneath that at 130. I guess that's where I would. I think I would pin the next resistance as just around that 130 area, because then you could run into a bunch of supply overhead from the summer of last year. So that might be a little bit tough to move through. So that's kind of what I'd be leaning on is probably 130 for your next upside resistance. I'm not too far away.
I'll tell you what, the comments here are absolutely crazy. Lion here saying, believe it or not, my son 2 years ago, he told people to buy a lot of gold and silver. Exactly. Nobody is surprised that your son was talking about gold. Guess where he learned that from? He learned that from Papa. That privacy guy says, I have a gaming friend who sold enough magic cards to put a down payment on her house.
Nice.
Wow.
And now she plays Magic the Gathering in her garage with her friends.
I would do the same thing. I would do the same thing. Scott, I paid for my first car with my sports. I mean, these are awesome stories. Again, I'm sorry for digressing, but that is absolutely awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Okay, let me move through some of this here. Tallied up my magic cards a couple of months ago. 10K. I would sell some of my magic cards for $10,000 here.
Go to me.
Daddy'd be getting a new intake on the Beamer if I did that. We'd be making more horsepower if we did that.
Go to meets. You might find buyers. Go to meets.
Man, oh man. Someone asked about G Pro earlier. I don't like this company. This was a great trade, an IPO, but I don't like the actual stock itself. I know we got a pop here in the after hours. There's been a lot of disappointment here today. I hope nobody's trapped in this one. This is a no touch for me. Bernhard says he likes Costco around 960. Costco was just above that. We're coming in 960 here. We're only 6 points away from that. That was recently above 1,000. Costco.
GoPro looks like you're filling the gap from yesterday.
Ryan is a motorhead. Who knew? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I absolutely love cars, building them, cleaning them, and of course, driving them. Absolutely, Michael. Bitcoin new highs now. I tell you what, Bitcoin has been strong all morning here. New highs 75,730 is your high print here today. AHMA, this is spiking here. Wow.
Let's see here. What's going on with that? This thing has kind of been oversold for a little while now, since last month.
Dude. Scott, good stuff on the Mahomes. I'm sorry, 13. I'm blown away by the card stories, and I keep digressing. It's my fault. I'm sorry. Get in there. Get in. I'm not going to interrupt you. I promise.
AHMA. It looks like this is coming up towards its 20-day SMA. That's at 188. That's the nearest resistance I see. You have $2 right after that. So that's what I'd be looking at. BM&R looks like this is about to go into 23.
Circle, that's also at highs here today. Boy, a lot of risk on it. And Jay, I agree with your sentiment here, especially with the move on the market here, which is up right out of the gate. This is a trim and trail day, not necessarily a buy day. Really quick, what's the fastest car you've ever driven? Well, the fastest I've ever driven are my two cars. The Trans Am that I built that had no speed governor on it. I think I got that thing to 180 at one point. My current BMW goes super fast, but I've never hit the limiter. As far as like the fastest potential, when I was much younger, I used to work for a catering company, and you'd be amazed how many times valet companies wouldn't show up to do their job. And because I was one of the few people that could drive a stick shift car, I got recruited to do that. So there were a couple of times where I parked, like a 355 Spider Ferrari and stuff like that, but I drove that thing 20 feet. I don't think I got that above double-digit MPH.
Collecting
They
tips.
gave me the valet key.
And you're collecting tips for that.
Yeah, actually, they didn't have to tip, but a lot of them still did. So shout out to those people. Didn't have to and opted to do that anyway, and they got the right guy because I took care of those cars as if they were my own. But I would say, to answer your question, the fastest car I've ever driven is probably the Trans Am that I built. That thing was an 11.8 second monster.
Oracle and Microsoft really starting to weaken here.
So another reason with that, the whole Microsoft trade, like I like those. I don't want to chase some of these upside moves. Like I would actually kind of wait that out to take a look at those 480 calls. I'd love for that implied volatility to come in a little bit too. Like have this move pull back a little bit and maybe stop. That'd be great.
Yeah, those big names are seeing some money fly out of them. GLW or GWL, or GLW. No, I was right. SNDK, AOI. No.
So are we getting a pullback then in some of those fiber optic and related names? Yeah, AEOI, this is basically at yesterday's lows. Now, this thing bounced from this same area yesterday.
What is lasers and optics doing? We have a whole watch list that is mostly red today, like big red.
Westcap, I appreciate all of your support, man. Really appreciate you. Also, as far as the content goes, I'm glad you're enjoying it, but we always take feedback here. Shout out to several folks who reach out regularly with feedback. Let us know what else we can do to make it even better. We're always about being 2% better here every single day. Oh, I've got Quantum on the scanner. I am guilty of not even looking at this the last couple of days. Rigetti highs, Ionic highs. Did we have any news that's moving some of these quantum stocks? You know, and the other thing is a move up here. We were talking about the market maybe rolling over and this, that, and the other thing. Maybe get ready with the RGTZ. I know that ETF has paid handsomely for this group on Rigetti shorts. Maybe with this move higher in some of these quantum names, we get that set up again.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just might be that they're, just so out of favor that they're getting noticed again. But I think that it might be on some of the news out of Google. Let me see here.
So here we go. Ionic shares are trading higher after the company announced it was awarded a contract in the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency Heterogenesis Architecture for the quantum program. So it looks like that you guys are exactly right. It's quantum news across the board there. And you guys also talked about Google. Lion, weren't you buying Google here for the long side trade? Google's higher here today. SPY, actually another buy signal for my indicator. SPY looking like it might be trying to go up. No position for me in SPY. I don't trust the move higher. Maybe I'm going to end up being wrong, but I do not trust it higher. Jay, quick question. Do I get to blame you if the market goes higher and I don't make money off of it because I'm waiting? Do I get to blame you for that or no? Of course I'm kidding. Of course I'm kidding. Hey, anyone think Google makes a move at the 350 here? Lion, I'm guessing you do.
I was just looking at Google. Let me take a look at it again.
Ondas calls. Ooh. This is interesting. Ondas calls the 17 calls for January of next year. This is not a huge trade. The only reason I said ooh is because I was buying the 18 calls now. My 18 calls were for September, but it looks like there are folks trading to the upside there. App, more calls being traded here.
For Google, I want to see what happens at 3:30. Let's see what happens there first. All right. Bitcoin driving data center stocks higher.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
That's what thinking about it was saying. Cintron was pumping Amazon this morning.
Izzy was on Amazon this morning, wasn't he?
And we are just seeing all kinds of weakness. That's okay. Provides some opportunities. Even BMR is now starting to roll over here.
So this is another reason why I think that not wanting to chase this move was a good idea.
Yep. Snell is pushing to 130. This thing up 240%. So we're getting pretty close to that resistance area. All right. How much volume have we even seen today in the SPY? It feels like it's just another one of these slower days. Geez, not even 9 million shares yet.
So what do you make? So this is a good topic for discussion. What do you make of the recent move higher to the top end of the range on SPY, but doing it on low volume? What do you make of that?
It seems like there's just lack of participation, especially from the bears. It just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of engagement in the market right now while this ordeal in the Middle East is going on. I think there's a lot of folks just kind of holding their breath for the talks between Lebanon and Israel, and it doesn't seem like the earnings season is having that much of an impact yet. Certainly seems like we're having a good day today, but if we're going to give it all back, then we've gone nowhere. So yeah, it just doesn't seem like there's just a lot of participation. I think there's people are waiting for a more definitive direction.
I mean, I think you're spot on. Just from polling our group in happy hour and here in the morning, it sure seems like that's exactly what people are waiting for. By the way, someone asked about Sezzle earlier. I apologize for not getting to it earlier. Sezzle actually has a fair value gap here. 64.25 is the top end of this. Let me actually back this down a little bit. 64.25. Here we go. So we have a possible fair value gap on Sezzle if this keeps pulling back. Don't forget, this was a home run massive winner from Tim Melvin. Was it last year or was it 2024? Was this big? Yeah, it was 20. It was last year. It was a huge move higher, and then it split after that. So interesting here. So I'm sorry whoever brought this up earlier. I'm sorry we couldn't cover it, but possible fair value gap here on Sezzle. SPY looking like it's going to try and go higher here. There's new intraday highs, 689.97.
Looks like we're starting to recover in Microsoft a little bit, but man, volume not great. We are starting to turn around a little bit, though. SPY has 2 gaps to fill on the downside. Let's see here.
Yeah, you said earlier SPY. So we talked about the resistance there on SPY. The first one that I had, Lion, was 690 to 691, and it's sure enough, here we are. We're pushing 690 right now. Let's see if we stop here. Furthermore, however, you were saying, I think 695, that's going to be right up here. That's right near the top, 695 to 700. I think you can count that entire area as a resistance area.
Yeah, we're actually getting into the range that we were talking about yesterday with all of our measurements and the inverse head and shoulders and all that. So I was looking at 690 to 692 as the range of resistance. Might be a little bit higher than that, but we're getting into that range right now.
Yep, we sure are. And I'm kind of waiting this out just to see if we turn around here, 13. Looks good across the board, though. Breath green across the board. Trend on the 15-minute futures, green. High confidence level, 66% confidence level. Bitcoin still at the highs. VIX 1810. Okay. Chris, thank you. I'm looking at 693.30 for the SPY. Okay.
Okay. So I mean, like we were saying, right up in that whole area there, but just shy of like the all-time highs. We're kind of looking at this as being a resistance area. My measurement, I got 690, 692. Some folks are going to have 695. I think these are all correct. We're facing some resistance up in this area here where we were going sideways for a while.
Now, Kathy bringing up ASML here. Earnings tomorrow, and it looks like it might be setting up to clear the 1547 resistance. ASML, here it is. We talked about some of that earlier in the news segment of the show, about a lot of these companies really just kind of being in a really good spot here and likely to move higher. Here's the interesting part about this, Kathy. This is an all-time high, right? I am almost certain that is. Yeah, we are right up here near all-time highs. If this thing puts up a good number and breaks this, I would not be shocked if this goes on a bit of a run too. ASML, no position for earnings, but man, oh man, what a move. What a move from the 1300 area too. Kathy, are you playing this for earnings? Let me know.
So you had a chart there. A monthly chart, right?
Of ASML?
Uh-huh.
By the way, American Airlines through the pre-market highs on the back of that possible merger. Here's your monthly chart for ASML.
Okay, so using the first two highs, like the September 2021 and the June 2024 highs, draw a trend line through those, and you end up with a support area that we broke, because we broke through this resistance, this uptrend, this trend line. And now that we've broken through it, that's going to become support. So this trend line, I would be looking at that as support. There you go.
All right, Kathy say, I am long for earnings. Kath, good luck. Good luck. I hope that you crush that.
CELH back to 40. Let me see here. Oh, so you're asking if it's going to turn around and go back to 40? I mean, let me go back here and look at a daily chart. I'm not seeing any signs yet that this is certainly turning around and going higher. We could still see 30 before we find support and turn around. But it looks to me like 40 is going to be resistance once you get up there.
And it looks to me like 36 is the key level that we're battling right now. We basically need to be back above 36 if this thing's going to try for 40 and higher.
Yep. Ionic is ripping, certainly is.
How's Bloom doing? BE? Oh, this is 10 points higher from Kathy's entry. Kathy, we need to somehow get an API set up and just get you a newsletter that just pumps out trade picks on a regular basis. I feel like you'd never lose.
So Ionic is the only one that's in that DARPA HARQ program, HARQ. So being the only one is probably going to have its benefits, but that's Ionic. And that's probably going to be very... Now, they also mentioned some other names, like they mentioned NVIDIA, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Alibaba, and NEO. But and I think the same press release, but this is the one that they've the primary contract.
Corey said, I would be shocked if American Airlines and United Airlines merge. AA Employee Group is still bitter from the previous U.S. Air American West TWA merger years ago. Corey, that's really good insight. Corey, by the way, our resident pilot, so he knows a couple of things about this business, and we really appreciate you sharing that with the group here. Corey, I would say that just on the regulatory hurdles alone, it would have trouble. That you're giving us some insight here about the people that actually make up some of these companies not being thrilled with some of those mergers. So I'm in the same camp you are. I don't see it. Bloom Energy keeps going here, Kathy.
Now, also, Corey, wouldn't that be something that United doesn't want to do? Because my understanding, you tell me if this is the case or not.
That's exactly what Chris is saying. You're spot on here, 13.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I thought that it was also a mess. Like United Airlines is kind of a mess. What? Okay, so Chris exactly saying what I was thinking. Like, why would UAL even want them?
You know what's crazy about that? It was Scott Kirby that floated it. It was the UAL CEO that floated this idea initially. So he must think that he can clean up American Airlines. And I believe, wasn't there some drama with Scott Kirby wanting to be a CEO and didn't get it? And then Oscar Munoz brought him over to American, and look what he's done with it. I'm pretty sure that's another angle of this whole thing.
And Corey, you tell me. But oh gosh, I had a thought, and I was looking at something, I forgot it. But I thought that, or couldn't it be a situation where UAL would want to acquire them exclusively for some things like gate space and
the routes?
routes. Maybe there's some parts of their fleet that they like. I don't know. I mean, just those are the three things that come to mind, especially the gate space. So that's the only things I could think of. But other than that, this doesn't make sense for a good, a strong company like UAL to want to pick up.
I'll tell you what, UAL's presence in Dallas would multiply overnight. Isn't Dallas like a hub for American? They got a ton of gates down there.
Well, UAL's hub is Bush Intercontinental.
That's what I'm saying. That's in Texas. Okay, yeah. I'm just saying. I feel like if they merge, they'd pick up a whole bunch of gates and routes. But that's good insight.
Their routes match each other too close, so it wouldn't so much be the routes as it probably would. Do you think it'd be more about the? Okay, so there. Okay, thank you for all of the insight there.
Bloom keeps going. I'm literally watching this. It just keeps going here.
All right, so and so does Ionic. So maybe some more fuel cell names. Let's see. What other names were going with Bloom?
Was SMR moving?
SMR has been moving. Some folks have been saying that it has.
Yeah, this popped and came back in a little bit. SPY, by the way, 690.93. So it is at the top end of that resistance range that we outlined.
GEV is a peer to BE. That's funny. SMR is up there.
GEV back to 1,000 or thereabouts.
It's right at 1,000 right now. It's funny.
And Scott mentioning that Roller's trying to bounce here. Indeed, don't you think that Roller really needs to kind of recapture this VWAP though? Got that at 935.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be about where you're going to see some resistance to if it doesn't show up here right at about 9. Because you look at that sideways price action in the pre-market, that's going to be a bit of a tough zone to get through unless you see a big spike in volume. Anyone have any theories on why IWM has such relative strength? Probably because it's a lot of the IWM is banks, like regional banks. So there could be a rebound because we talked earlier about how financials are lower and now they're getting a lift. So we could see a lot of that happening there.
I'm almost thinking that the IWM move is telling you that there's probably not going to be a rate hike, which I know several people have kind of floated a rumor on. I don't think the IWM would be trading higher if the market thought there was a rate hike coming.
Probably not. I just kind of just going with what I was saying about how the financials have been beaten so down, and IWM has a lot of small banks in them. So I don't think that's the whole reason, but it could be a facet of it.
Microsoft leveled off here at 390.
Looks like Ionic starting to run into some sellers at 34.44. We are really the big movers from yesterday are really selling today. What's this SPY at now? Are you finally getting a little bit of weakness?
No, SPY is at 690 and 72. It is right up near the day highs. Yeah, thinking about it, says we went from rate cuts to not rate hikes. LOL. Lion followed up, but Trump will not be happy if the Fed didn't cut the rates. So, like I said, I think these are just a couple of people that are floating that. I don't think that's actually going to happen here. And by the way, Roller pulled back, didn't quite get to its VWAP, pulled back a little bit there.
Mm-hmm. Looks like they're still holding 8 for now, but you have the 65 EMA down at 758. Could hit that as well. IREN moving with there we go. That's some of the ones I was looking for.
IREN.
This is more software though, but Looks like Cantor Fitzgerald thinks it's worth $61 a share.
Is that cage match with Tim still on the table? Is that Lion versus Tim in the cage? I mean, I'd be down for that.
Fly down 10%. Any news? No, it's probably just moving down with the rest of the space names. If you look at the space watch list, there's a lot of red today. We had a lot of green yesterday, a lot of red today. ASTS down 11%, Black Sky down 11%, Satellogic down 10%, Momentous, the one that had a great move yesterday, that's down 10.5%. So I think you're just seeing a lot of the space names just pull back from their run that they had yesterday.
Yeah, I don't see any news here for Fly down 10.5%.
Yeah, and they're trying to be one of the next companies to compete with Rocket Lab and SpaceX. Although they're more closer to a competitor with Rocket Lab than they are with SpaceX. All right, let's see. Looks like Ionic trying to recover here. Trying to push higher.
Keel at the highs. KEEL. Hood finally getting a nice little move higher here. We'll just keep rolling through some of these. Rigetti still at the highs. That's the sympathy on the quantum news that's here this morning. CoreWeave.
Zach, I don't think it's madness, but I don't think we'd want to buy it right just this moment. We definitely want to get them when they're cheaper and weaker, but they are going to likely go on a run with when SpaceX IPOs. It's going to be a halo effect. So eventually, when we get closer to that date, we'll see them turn around. If they're not just already going to turn around after we get a little bit of a pullback here. Oh, for short term, yeah, okay, gotcha. Then never mind.
Good mention here on Cypher. This is actually a pretty good bounce. If this thing can break 20, you might go towards some of those. Did we have news on this recently?
That looks like that's going higher.
Yeah, it sure does.
That pattern there, yeah.
A Cantor last week with a $22 target on this. That's the most recent piece of news I have. That one actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, CoreWeave and Marvell were really good. CoreWeave had probably down as well today. No, it's up.
Yeah, it's like holding sideways though. And then RVMD. So this is an interesting one here too. This is a pop. This is an island. Yeah, it didn't even back test this. Can we look at RVMD? It looks like it won't break 140. Well, I mean, the day is young here, but I clearly see the 140 resistance. I think 150 comes pretty fast if this thing goes through 140.
RVMD.
Revolution Medicines. What does this one do? I can't remember. I know we've looked at this before, though. Clinical stage precision oncology company developing novel targeted therapies for RAS-addicted cancers. Yeah, so pre-revenue. God, it's just $140 pre-revenue biotech company. Good Lord.
So they proposed up to $1 billion in stock. They're doing a $750 million common stock offering and $250 in convertible senior notes. That was the news from yesterday, off the heels of their phase 3 news they also had. So I think if there's going to be a trade in this one, keep an eye on when they're going to be doing that FDA submission. But I don't know when they're going to be doing that offering either. So that's something else to keep in mind.
Sorry, I don't have more for you there, CJ. I think you're spot on with 140 being the resistance here. I just think if that falls, this thing could go.
You might have a bit of a trend. So if you look at a daily chart, you start with that high from November of 2024 and draw it through the high of January this year. That might give you, let's see here. So we're going through that right now.
So the high of January 26th, and what was the other high?
November 2024.
Got it.
Yeah, it's basically those two highs there. Yeah, there, and there we are.
There it is.
So we start closing over this. We're going to want to see this trend line act as support.
Hey, Ryan, whatever happened to Peter? That segment was only for the end of the year last year. We haven't had that segment for a while. What happened to him? I would imagine he still has crazy scarves and hair down at the exchange in New York.
And connection problems.
Maybe, but that's only when he's on his phone.
I know.
That dude's been doing this for a long time.
I know. I'm just joking around because that was one of the things I remember when he came on. We'd always run into some kind of connection issue.
Yep. All right, market. So SPY. I'll tell you what.
35.
SPY not going after the buy signals here today. Opted to be the wrong move, or ended up, being the wrong move here. SPY still at the highs. I would love to see if this thing can get above the 691, 692. That'd be something.
Dead AI is mentioning solar, SEDG, and TAN. I guess we could also mention FSLR in there as well. Let's see what those are looking like. I mean, TAN kind of going sideways here. And what's the other one? SEDG.
Peter has jet fuel in his blood. That's not inaccurate. Sometimes I wish his energy could be transferable.
SEDG, it's holding above the 50, but it needs to recapture the 20. It looks like you have resistance at about 48, maybe a little bit lower, around 47. I'm not seeing a whole lot of movement here in these solar names.
Gen Z pool guy. With Micron here, obviously all these memory names have been big time. Micron, maybe the start of a formation of a head and shoulders here. Wouldn't put too much on this, but this is just kind of what I see at the chart. Otherwise, this has been a super strong bounce.
Ionica going higher still, 35 and change. It's a little quiet, a bit of a quiet day now.
Yeah, I think that there was a bunch of people off sides on this move. I'll be honest with you. I think there were a lot of shorts in the market. We didn't really get it. We got some of this continuation here. And I think that the participation, like Jay was saying, this is not a time to be buying. This is a time to be trimming and trailing.
Oh.
Move like this. You can charge your cell phone by sitting next to Peter. That would be something.
Hive breakout.
Which one?
Hive.
Yeah,
that one's climbing higher here. Had little volume, and then looks like we opened and the volume appeared. Cantor Fitzgerald hitting this one. Seems like Cantor Fitzgerald's been giving the price targets out lately. New Ondas calls daily, oil down 550.
I didn't see any today, but I very easily could have missed them because I wasn't watching this. Here, let me actually just filter for it. I guess I could do that pretty easily. But you're not wrong. Here are your Ondas calls from today: 10, 11, 17, 950, 13, and 14. The earliest expiry is May. The earliest expiry is the 950s in April. That's this week. But other than the one single trade for this week, a lot of these are further out. The longest one is out in January. And we saw some of this yesterday too, Graf. So, maybe that's people position. Again, I'm ready. We make a move up, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. September 18 calls and stock still.
Where's Kodak today? Because that thing has been doing really well. Oh, we're actually under 12 again. But we are holding this trend line. This thing was getting pretty extended anyway. It went all the way up to 1250. Just shy of 1250. 1246 was the high.
Iran mulls Hormuz tolling to facilitate the talks. Like that's what Charlie was saying earlier. That was the whole point of the street tweet, was that the U.S. is going to moderate Israel and Lebanon talks. It seems like the conflict in this area, they're trying. And I don't know if that's going to happen, but it sure seems like they're trying. Sure seems like they're trying to. All right, 13. We are out of time here for today. Really good stuff. Again, folks, remember, no Anne Marie here this week. She is expanding her family, and we are extremely happy for her. But 13, any closing words for the group here today?
Hopefully we find some more things that provide a little bit better trading tomorrow. We did have some good trades today, but it seemed like it was pretty slow and relatively muted after we opened. So great job on limiting your risk and taking some money off the table. Got some gains. Pretty good day, but I think there's gonna be better days ahead. So hang on to that capital. Come back here tomorrow. We'll find some more trades. We'll trade them and make some money. It'll be a good day. Take care, everybody. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Amen, 13. Have a good one. We will see you tomorrow. Take care, buddy. And folks, we'll see all of you again here tomorrow. Thanks once again for choosing to spend your morning with us here at Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook. Love having you folks. Love all of the discussion. Love the ideas and the trading and all of the stuff in here. You guys continue to make this the place to be every single day. And for that, we appreciate you. Stay green, stay safe, stay focused. We'll do it again tomorrow. Take care, everybody.